Welcome to Shredder Fanfic. Like, subscribe, and hype video. Join members to gain early access to new videos.
The MC is reborn as a dragon from Game of Thrones. He is reborn inside of Monster, inside of Skull Island. He on Skull Island creates a dragon clan. Will he help Kong, or will he help Godzilla? Will he moves his clan to the Hollow Earth?
The bugs. The constant hunger. The fear. Now look at us. You have a den for them? I asked. Almost finished, he said. By the cliff near the western edge. Need help? No, he said. I want to do it myself. I grinned and stood, brushing my wings out. Just make sure the roof doesn't collapse in the rain. It won't, he replied quickly. I reinforced it with river stone. I laughed a full belly laugh this time. Smart. He smiled too, just a flicker. I left him then, letting him return to his cubs. But I didn't go far. I perched on a high rock near the pond, watching from above as the next generation of dragons leapt through the water, clawed at lily pads, and chased shadows with laughter in their eyes. My mate joined me soon after, her body pressed against mine, warm and steady. You saw them? She asked. I did, I murmured. He's ready. He's more than ready, she said. He's becoming what you are. I looked out over the clearing, the ponds, the homes, the cubs. What I am. I didn't know what that was, not really. But I knew what I wanted to be. And seeing my son with his family, living strong, made me believe something I hadn't dared think when this strange journey began. This island might one day be ours. Not to rule. But to live in peace. To raise our kind. To protect what we built. Together. Chapter 42, Chapter 42, The Birth of the Dragon Clan. The sky was streaked with orange and crimson as the sun dipped low over Skull Island. I stood on the high stone that overlooked the valley of ponds, dens, and open skies, the heart of what we had built. Dragons filled the skies around me, gliding in spirals, perching on ridges, circling with cautious curiosity. My mate stood beside me, wings folded, her expression calm and strong. Our eldest son stood on my other side, flanked by his own mate and their hatchlings. All around us, the dragons gathered, those born here, and those who had arrived over the years, drawn by the scent of fire and fish, by the whispers of a thriving home. They were watching me now. Waiting. It was time. I raised my head and let out a roar, not of rage, not of threat, but of call and command. The sound echoed across the land, rippling through trees and caves and skies. When the sound faded, I spoke. I let many of you stay here, I began, my voice loud, strong, but calm. Some of you came from far away, drawn by fire and fish. Some of you were born here. This land fed you. Sheltered you. Protected you. No one spoke. No one moved. I looked down at the younger dragons clustered near the water, then at the cliffside homes we had built together. And I allowed it, I continued. Because I believe in more than just surviving. I believe in building. In protecting. In family. I looked each of them in the eye, one by one. But survival cannot exist without order. That's why, from this day forward, we are no longer just a group of dragons. I took a breath, spreading my wings wide. We are a clan. The Dragon Clan. Murmurs rippled through the crowd, wings shifting, tails swishing. But no one objected. They listened. We will have structure. A path. A future. I will lead, for now. But I will not lead alone forever. There will be 5 elders, not chosen by birth, but by wisdom, strength, and contribution. Each will represent the needs of all dragons, and they will work with the clan leader to guide us forward. Eyes widened. Heads nodded. We will vote on our future. We will listen. We will protect each other. And we will protect this land. Then I turned my head toward the trees. And he came. Kong. He emerged like a living mountain, massive and calm, his fur streaked with rain and dirt, his eyes steady. The ground shook under his weight. He approached slowly, then stood at the edge of our gathering. Watching. Waiting. I looked back to my clan. Kong is our ally. Our friend. Without him, I would not be standing here. He has brought us food, defended this land, and left us in peace. From now on, he is part of our clan's alliance. I paused. If Kong needs help, if he is in danger, any dragon who sees it will answer that call. No hesitation. No fear. Not a single dragon argued. Even the most independent, the wildest of the rogues who had joined us, gave a slow nod. Kong remained still, but I saw it in his eyes. He understood. I looked around one last time. The sky darkened. The torches near the dens began to glow. The fish in the big pond stirred in the water below. From this day forward, I said, voice deep and final, we are no longer scattered. We are united. We are the Dragon Clan. And together, we will never fall. A roar split the air, not mine but my son's. Then another. Then dozens. Wings rose. Voices thundered. Even Kong beat his chest once, a silent mark of approval. And so, as the night fell, and the stars blinked awake, the Dragon Clan was born not just as a name, but as a force. A family of fire and flight, tied together by choice not blood. And with Kong as our ally, Skull Island was no longer just a home. It was a kingdom. Chapter 43, Rise of the Elders. The crowd of dragons circled the clearing, wings tucked, heads lowered in silent respect. The skies were calm, but the air buzzed with tension and anticipation. I stood at the top of the stone outcrop, above the ponds, the homes, and the lands we had built with fire, fang, and family. This was more than a home now. It was a nation. A kingdom. A clan. And a clan needed order. I lifted my head, letting my voice ring out. I, Shredder, the first of this clan, name myself as the clan head of the Dragon Clan. Not one sound of protest. I could feel the stares, the respect earned through years of fighting, hunting, protecting. They knew what I had done. What we had built. And none doubted I was fit to lead. I turned toward my son, my eldest. Strong, proud, and already a father of his own brood. He stepped forward. And I appoint my eldest son as the first elder of the Dragon Clan. He gave a slight nod, his wings spreading wide before folding them tight against his back. The dragons below murmured, not in dissent, but approval. I looked over them all. There will be 5 elders in total. Not chosen by popularity. Not by blood. But by the clan head. Each elder will be judged by their wisdom, strength, and what they have done for this clan. Wings shifted. Tails swayed. But no voices rose. The rules were clear. And no dragon could deny the order we had lacked before. Until all 5 elders are chosen, Kong, our great ally, our protector, will act as one of the elders of the Dragon Clan. The ground trembled as Kong took a single step forward, standing tall near the gathering. Even though he didn't speak our language, his eyes met mine with full understanding. He pounded his chest once, a silent acceptance of the role. I turned back to the clan, voice cold now. If any dragon breaks the rules, if any dragon threatens the clan, the family, the future, they will be cast out. Or killed. My fire flared from my jaws, a controlled burst that scorched the ground near the stone. We are not just beasts now. We are a force. And we will not allow chaos, selfishness, or betrayal to weaken us. Silence. And then a thunder of roars erupted around me, all dragons agreeing. Not one protest. Not one voice raised in defiance. Because the rules made sense. They'd seen the skull crawlers rip apart lone beasts. They'd seen what happened when creatures fought alone. Unity was survival. Order was strength. I stepped down from the stone, walking past the rows of dragons, young and old, wild and raised here. They moved aside with respect. My mate landed beside me, calm and proud. Our younger cubs fluttered near the edge of the gathering, wide-eyed but silent. I turned back once more. We will grow. We will learn. We will protect this land, this clan, and each other. And one day, when the skies are full of our kind, this day will be remembered. The roars returned louder this time. Echoing over trees, rippling the surface of the ponds. This was the beginning of something greater than survival. This was the rise of a legacy. This was the Dragon Clan. Chapter 44, Chapter 44, Strength in Numbers. The sun had barely risen when I stood atop the stone ledge, gazing out across the land we had built. What once was a small, hidden refuge had become a village, no, a growing kingdom of scaled wings and fire. My gaze swept across the valley below the homes we built from mud and fire, the clear waters of the ponds we dug and filled with prey, and the dozens of dragons beginning to stir from their dens. And for the first time, I started to count. One by one, I looked over them. Younglings flapping their wings, chasing insects. Mothers keeping their cubs in line. Young warriors cleaning their scales in the pond. Strays who had proven themselves, now part of our clan. 37. There were 37 dragons in total now, including myself, my mate, our cubs, and their growing broods. And more would come. That much was certain. I let out a deep, rumbling growl, not a threat, but a signal. They looked up, silent, attentive. Our numbers have grown, I said, my voice rolling like thunder. More wings, more fire, more life. But with more mouths to feed, comes the need for more space. My tail swept behind me, pointing to the third pond, the largest one, the one Kong himself helped us create. It had become the heart of our hunting and fishing, where younglings learned to dive, where fish swam freely, breeding in the thick aquatic plants we'd transplanted from other ponds. But it wasn't enough anymore. We need to expand it. I said simply. If we wait, we'll run dry. The food will thin. And the dragons will suffer. I looked toward my eldest son, the new elder, who nodded. Let's dig, he growled, wings folding tight. All of you able to fly and dig, you work today. We will make the pond larger, deeper, wider. We will shape it for the future for your cubs and theirs. A wave of roars answered me. Dragons of all sizes took to the sky, circling once before diving down to the earth. Claws raked into soil, tails smashed roots, fire burst from mouths to soften hard ground. The teamwork was instinctual. Natural. Efficient. Younger dragons carried away rocks. Elders guided where to dig. I walked through the trenches myself, lending claw and flame, melting stubborn boulders in hard clay so they could be moved. My mate brought water in her jaws to cool the freshly moved earth, keeping it from collapsing. Even Kong, hearing the roars, came through the trees. He didn't speak, but the moment he saw us digging, he gave a short nod and began carving trenches with his massive hands. Entire chunks of earth flew behind him as he worked beside us, each scoop worth a dozen of our efforts. We worked all day. By sundown, the pond was nearly twice its size. Connected channels fed it with water, and we dug side pockets to encourage fish to spread and breed. Some dragons dove in and began herding fish from the older pond to the new space. My heart swelled as I watched them work. This wasn't just survival anymore. This was civilization. Unity. We were no longer strays, no longer prey hiding in shadows. We were a force, a clan with fire in our blood and purpose in our hearts. And we would never stop growing. Chapter 45, Chapter 45, The Council of Fire. 45 years had passed in the blink of an eye. In that time, we had built an empire, a family, a clan, a kingdom. But I knew, as all dragons did, that time meant something different for us. We were not like the humans that scurried across the earth, we were immortal, or as close to it as any creature could be. Dragons lived for centuries, even millennia, as long as they had food and a place to call home. And though our clan was still young, we had already accomplished more than I ever imagined possible. We were still in the early years of our lives, the second generation, and yet already, we were powerful. In truth, we were just entering our prime. A dragon's full strength didn't show until they were 100, 200 years old. We were babies compared to those who had lived for millennia, but our achievements, the clan we had built, were already unparalleled. I had lived long enough to know that immortality had its burdens, but for us, it was a gift. The key to our survival wasn't just strength, nor the fire we breathed, but the bonds we had forged with one another. We were more than just creatures of flame and scale, we were a family. And as long as we had food, water, and land, we would endure. And as I stood at the front of the council, I felt the weight of time. Today, we would mark another turning point in our clan's history. Today, the future of the Dragon clan would be decided. The gathering of dragons before me, 147 strong, stood silent, waiting. The air was heavy with anticipation. For me, this moment was bittersweet, because it meant change. It meant that it was time to let go and trust the next generation. I stepped forward, the roar of my wings causing a ripple through the air. My tail swept behind me, stirring the earth. The elders and the dragons gathered in a perfect circle, a sign of the unity that had held us together all these years. The roars of agreement settled, and I spoke. Brothers, sisters, children, and kin. Today, the future of the Dragon clan is in our hands. We are not just a family, we are a legacy, born of fire, blood, and sacrifice. But now, the time has come for us to look ahead. The dragons stirred, their heads held high, waiting for what would come next. In our hearts, we know that dragons do not fade, not as long as we have food and the land to feed us. We are eternal, and though we are young now, mere fledglings in the grand timeline of dragons, we have already made our mark upon the world. I paused, looking out across the gathered faces. Young dragons, strong warriors, wise elders, and even the cubs who had barely spread their wings. But no one, not even a dragon, can live forever alone. We must continue to grow, to evolve, to forge the future together. And that, my kin, is why I stand before you now to pass on the leadership of our clan. The crowd was silent, waiting for the announcement. I turned toward my eldest son, now grown into a strong and powerful dragon, his wings wide and his scales gleaming like the night sky. His eyes burned with the same fierce determination I had once had, but his wisdom surpassed even mine. First elder, I began. My eldest son. You have led with strength and wisdom since the moment you stepped forward. The future is yours, and it is in good claws. He stepped forward, his voice deep and resonant. I will carry the weight of our clan with honor, he said, his gaze meeting mine. Next, I nodded to the second elder, a stray who had shown incredible intelligence. He was the one who had helped us adapt to new ways of life, teaching us how to grow food and find new resources. His scales shimmered silver in the light of the setting sun, and his sharp eyes were ever calculating. Second elder, I said. You have been the mind behind our growth. You taught us how to plant and how to keep our lands fertile. Your intellect is unmatched, and the future of the Dragon clan will be shaped by your wisdom. The second elder bowed low, his voice calm but firm. I will continue to serve, as I always have. Then, I turned to my grandson, the third elder. He had grown into a mighty warrior, a dragon of great strength. His scales were dark, a deep shade of green that blended with the forests we called home. He had always been a protector, someone who kept our clan safe with his courage and might. Third Elder, I said. You are the heart of our defense. Your strength is the foundation that holds us together. You have protected not only me but the clan itself. Your courage will guide us into the future. He stepped forward, his muscles rippling under his scales. I will protect our future, he said, his voice deep and steady. The next elder was a stray, one who had once almost given his life protecting the cubs of the clan. His scales were a muted brown, and though smaller in size than the others, his heart and bravery were unmatched. He had not only fought for the clan but sacrificed everything for the future of the young. Fourth Elder, I said. You earned your place not by power but by your sacrifice. You risked your life to protect the cubs of our clan. You are the spirit of what it means to be a part of this family. He nodded, his voice rough but filled with pride. I will continue to protect them all. And then, the final elder, the fifth elder. This was the moment of change. The future had come, in the form of my eldest son's son, who had grown into a dragon both strong and intelligent. He had helped the second elder grow food, raised deer, boar, and prey for the entire clan. His skills had proven him worthy of the role. Fifth elder, I said, you are the future. Your strength and intellect will guide us into the next era. You have proven yourself not just with your might but with your heart. The fifth elder, my grandson, stepped forward. He was strong, having trained under the second elder, learning the ways of both wisdom and war. His scales shone a deep red, and his eyes blazed with the same fire that had fueled the first generation of our clan. I will carry on the legacy, he said, his voice steady and unwavering. For the Dragon Clan. Finally, I nodded to Kong, who stood at the edge of the gathering. He had been an elder for many years, but now, his role was different. Kong had taught me the ways of leadership, the ways of survival. He was not a true dragon, but he had become our ally, our guide. Kong, you have been a part of this clan for as long as I have. You are no longer just an elder, but a symbol of our unity. You have always been a protector and friend to us, and for that, we thank you. Kong looked down at me, his mighty form towering over the clan. He gave a deep nod, and the rumble of his voice echoed in the air. I will stand beside you, always. The council was set. The new elders had been chosen, and the future of the Dragon Clan was in good claws. I looked out over the Sea of Dragons 147, and I felt the weight of what we had built. The clan was strong. But now, it was time for a new generation to lead, to shape the future. And as I stepped back, I knew one thing: we would thrive. We would endure. And we would remain, forever. The future was ours. Chapter 46, Chapter 46, The Dragon Legacy. It had been many years since the founding of the Dragon Clan, and in that time, we had achieved far more than I could have ever imagined. The land we had claimed, the bonds we had built, and the power we had gathered all meant something far greater now. We had grown stronger, smarter, and far more capable than I had ever dreamed when I first woke up as a baby dragon. As the years passed, the Dragon Clan flourished. It wasn't just the strength of our fire or the sharpness of our claws that made us formidable, but the intelligence we had gained over time. And the driving force behind that was the second elder and fifth elder. Together, they revolutionized our way of life. The second elder, with his sharp intellect, had devised a brilliant plan to increase our food supply. Along with the fifth elder, my grandson, they had discovered a way to expand our fish farms by digging tunnels beneath the dragon homes. The idea was simple but genius. The ground beneath was wasted space, so why not put it to use? They built an elaborate network of underground tunnels beneath the houses where fish could swim and thrive, spaces that would never be disturbed by the movement of the dragons. The fish thrived, and with the tunnels hidden beneath the surface, they could breed and grow larger, sheltered from the threat of being eaten before reaching full size. The two of them had gone even further by planting more vegetation around the tunnels, providing cover and food for the young fish. It was a system that worked far better than we had hoped, ensuring that our food source would never run dry. But that wasn't all they had done. They had also discovered how to farm animals, deer, boar, and other prey without them roaming free in the wild. The fifth elder, the grandson who had always been resourceful, designed a system where dragons could capture and raise animals in controlled spaces. They built large, secure pens where the animals could grow, providing a steady food supply for the clan. The animals were raised for one purpose, to feed the dragons, and the system worked seamlessly. This was a game changer. Now, instead of hunting or waiting for prey to wander by, we could simply go to the pens, grab what we needed, and know that there would always be more waiting. Our dragons had become farmers in their own right. We had also created a new system of hunting and defense. The dragons now lived near a large mountain, the same one where Kong had made his home. The mountain was now a symbol of protection, both for the dragons and their prey. Behind the mountain lay a vast valley, where we began storing food. The valley was a place where we could keep the prey safe, and should we ever need food, we could simply travel there to gather more. Kong, who had long been our ally, made sure that other predators stayed away from the valley, but it wasn't just Kong who kept watch. The dragons, too, guarded the valley fiercely, ensuring it remained a sanctuary for the clan. Over the years, Kong had changed, just as we had. He had grown even larger than before. Standing at 337 feet, Kong was now a towering force of nature. His muscles rippled beneath his fur, his immense frame casting a shadow over the land. Kong had always been strong, but now he was more than just a protector. He had become one of us, a symbol of strength, alliance, and wisdom. He had also accomplished something remarkable during these years. He had eliminated every last skull crawler in the region. They were no longer a threat to us, our land, or our future. The skull crawler dens, once dreaded and feared, had been completely transformed. Where the terrifying creatures had once lived, the dragons now dwelled. The dragon den, what had once been a place of horror, had become our home. And it was Kong who had led the charge, destroying every skull crawler in his path and clearing the way for the dragons to take over. Where Kong had once lived was now a playground for the younger dragons. They chased each other through the old caves, playing among the remnants of the skull crawler dens. The dragon den, once stained with the blood of enemies, had become our stronghold. It was a place of safety and nurturing, where the younger dragons could grow without fear of the creatures that had once terrorized us. The older dragons, however, had chosen to live near the old den where the skull crawlers had once reigned. It was far larger, more comfortable, and better suited for the older members of the clan. But the legacy of the skull crawlers was not forgotten. Their destruction had paved the way for the rise of the dragon clan, and it was a symbol of how far we had come. As the leader of the clan, I watched my children grow, watched my grandchildren develop into strong, capable individuals. With the elders seated at the table of leadership, I knew that the future of our clan was secure. The dragon clan had grown from a handful of dragons to hundreds, and we had become a force to be reckoned with. Every dragon now had a place in our family, and they had all earned their positions through their actions and loyalty to one another. As I sat back and reflected on the changes that had occurred, I realized that our achievements were far more than just victories. They were a testament to our strength, our unity, and our commitment to one another. The dragon clan had built something that would last long after we were gone. And as long as we continued to protect each other, the dragon clan would endure. But that wasn't all. With each passing day, our family grew stronger, and our place in the world solidified. We had created something that would endure, a legacy that would carry on long after we had passed. And with Kong by our side, there was nothing we couldn't achieve. The dragon clan would continue to grow, to thrive, and to stand together as one, stronger than ever before. And with Kong standing at our side, nothing would stand in our way. Chapter 47, The Meeting of Elders. The rain had stopped just before dawn, and the mist that followed wrapped the mountain like a cloak. The air was heavy with the scent of wet stone and fresh earth. High above the valley, nestled in a colossal cave carved into the side of the great mountain, the elder council of the dragon clan gathered. This was Kong's cave, a place of great importance and deep respect. It was where Kong rested, where he watched the land, and where the most important decisions were now made. Though Kong was no longer an elder of the dragon clan, having willingly passed the mantle to one of our own, his wisdom, strength, and alliance still made him an essential voice. I arrived first, landing softly at the entrance of the vast stone cavern. My wings folded at my sides, and my body, now massive and armored with tough scales, moved with power and confidence. Behind me, the 5 elders followed in silence. First elder, my eldest son, wise and fair, respected by all. Second elder, the clever stray who had taught us how to grow food, breed fish, and farm animals. Third elder, my strong grandson, a warrior through and through, unmatched in battle. Fourth elder, a brave stray, once nearly killed protecting younglings and the vulnerable, his loyalty was legendary. Fifth elder, my son, from my second batch of cubs, a brilliant and kind-hearted dragon who had helped revolutionize our farming systems. He was taught by Kong himself and earned his place with both heart and strength. And of course, standing at the back of the cave, Kong himself waited. Towering at 337 feet, his massive frame blended with the shadows of the cave. His deep eyes watched us with calm focus, and when I bowed my head to him in respect, he nodded once, silent and powerful as always. We gathered around the stone circle, a flat space in the center of the cave, smoothed by time and footsteps. The dragons curled their tails around themselves, wings tucked close, eyes watching, waiting. I stepped forward and spoke first. The clan has grown stronger than ever, I said. We now number 147 dragons, and our systems for food, shelter, and defense have never been more efficient. But with size comes responsibility. We must ensure we continue to grow wisely. That is why I called this meeting. The second elder lifted his head. The fish farms beneath the homes are at capacity. We've expanded them, but with the growing number of dragons, we must begin plans for even more space, deeper tunnels, new farms beyond the third pond. The fifth elder nodded. And we must prepare for seasonal shifts. Rain makes our ponds overflow, but during dry months, water can become scarce. I suggest building a canal system from the valley to the pond, to store extra water. The third elder rumbled low. And the young ones grow careless. They fly far without watching for threats. We may have defeated the skull crawlers, but there are always new predators. We need more patrols in the skies. The fourth elder added quietly, and more guardians for the hatchlings. We can begin training the older ones, let them serve before becoming warriors. Kong grunted his agreement, the sound echoing through the cave. Then, with his massive finger, he pointed toward the valley beyond the mountain. We all turned to see where he pointed. A herd of wild animals grazed peacefully, our backup food reserve. He was reminding us, protect it. The meeting continued. We discussed new homes, dividing the hunting zones, and even expanding into nearby caves for more housing. Then I raised the final issue. We are no longer just a group. We are a civilization. The time has come to begin preparing the next generation, not just to survive, but to lead. The elders all nodded. We will begin training a new group of young dragons, one from each elder's line. They will be taught by us, learn everything from flight and fire to leadership, farming, and protection. They will become the next guardians of the dragon clan. Kong stepped forward now, slowly lowering himself to one knee. Then, with surprising gentleness, he placed something on the stone circle, a massive tooth, clean and ancient, from the largest skull crawler he ever killed. A gift. A symbol. We all bowed our heads. Even the elders remained silent. The meeting ended not with words, but with understanding. We were no longer survivors. We were builders, leaders, and protectors. And with Kong by our side, we would shape not just the future of the Dragon Clan, but the future of Skull Island itself. The Age of Dragons had truly begun. Chapter 48, Chapter 48, Shadows in the Sky. The sun shimmered over the massive pond as I dove beneath the surface, gliding through the cool, crystal-clear water. The plants swayed gently, and dozens, no, hundreds of fish darted in every direction, glinting like silver arrows. It was beautiful. Peaceful. But even with all this life, a thought pulled at me like an anchor. It's not enough. Not because we were lacking, no. Right now, there was enough food to feed the entire clan for years. But I knew better. I had seen how quickly the Dragon Clan grew. And when I swam back up and broke the surface, I saw why that thought haunted me. 17 baby dragons played by the pond's edge, splashing water at each other, their wings still small and stubby, but growing stronger by the day. I landed near them, watching them laugh and tumble, and my thoughts sharpened. The more dragons we have, the faster the clan grows, and the more we must prepare. I stretched my wings wide and launched into the sky, the wind roaring past me. The forest below blurred as I flew higher and higher until I could see all of Skull Island stretched beneath me. The mountains. The valleys. The ponds. The home we had built. Then something moved in the sky. Chop, 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 chop. The sound of blades slicing through the air. I turned my head and saw it, a helicopter, black and sleek, with the unmistakable symbol on its side, Monarch. I narrowed my eyes. Why are they back? I soared higher and flew closer, careful to stay out of sight. I didn't recognize the humans on board, but I knew Monarch's scent, always watching, always searching. I didn't know if they meant harm, but I wasn't about to take any chances. I flew back fast, so fast the wind tore leaves from the treetops beneath me. I let out a sharp, echoing call one only dragons could hear. Within minutes, dragons began to arrive, flying from cliffs, crawling from caves, swimming out of the water. In moments, the entire dragon clan was alert. Elders barked orders. The young were herded back to their dens. The skies were emptied. The ponds covered by the trees above. We became invisible. I didn't stay. I turned, wings slicing through the clouds, and followed the helicopter. Alone. Where are you going? I wondered. What are you looking for? And more importantly, do you know we're here? As I soared silently through the skies, tail flicking and fire burning quietly in my throat, I followed the humans deeper into the unknown parts of Skull Island, into the part of this world where secrets still lived. And I knew something had changed. Something new had begun. Chapter 49, Chapter 49, The Message of the IWI. The wind from the helicopter's blades stirred the leaves around Kong's great den, whipping them into the air like a swarm of startled birds. I had followed it from above, alone, wings half extended in the clouds. My eyes locked onto the insignia on the side of the aircraft, Monarch. That name sent a chill down my spine. I remembered it. I remembered everything. My past life. The theater. The fire. Godzilla vs. Kong playing on the big screen. This moment, it was the beginning of the movie. The one I watched in my human life, right before I died and awoke as a dragon. And that meant. This was it. The start of the war. I dropped lower and hid in the shadows of the cliffside. Below, the helicopter landed, and the hatch hissed open. Out stepped a group of humans, some in familiar monarch uniforms. But then, between them, a much smaller figure appeared. A young girl. She was dressed in the style of the Iwi tribe, traditional and ceremonial, yet she moved confidently toward Kong. No fear in her steps. I watched her reach out and place a hand against Kong's massive finger as he lowered it to her. She said something to him, something I couldn't hear from here. But I didn't need to. I knew exactly what she was telling him. Godzilla is coming. She was warning Kong. The same way she had in the film. The same events I had watched unfold from a plush movie theater seat, popcorn in hand, not knowing I'd be dead by the time the credits rolled. It was a surreal thing watching a memory from my human life come to life in front of me as a dragon. I felt the weight of it now, far more than I ever did then. This wasn't entertainment. This was real. Kong's face grew tense. He turned toward the ocean, his expression grim. I knew what he was thinking, because I'd seen it play out once before. Godzilla was already on the move. They were going to clash. And if history repeated itself, it wouldn't be pretty. I flew back immediately. No hesitation. Back toward the Dragon Clan. Back toward my family. Back to the world I had helped build from the dirt up. We had created life here. A true society. Food, shelter, water, protection. But none of that would matter if Skull Island became the battlefield for Titans. When I arrived at the dens, I let out a sharp, powerful roar, one that echoed through every peak and tree. Every dragon froze and turned toward me. Within minutes, the elders gathered. Close the ponds. Hide the cubs. Shut down the sky paths. No dragonflies tonight. They obeyed without question. Even now, as their leader, I could feel the old human fear inside me. But this time, I wasn't powerless. I had claws, wings, and fire. And I had a family to protect. The others didn't understand what was happening yet. But I did. Because I'd seen this story before. And it was just beginning. Chapter 50, When Titans March. The sun had barely touched the sky when the rumble of engines echoed across the valley. I flew to the peak, watching from above as Monarch moved with purpose. They came with machines, ones I remembered all too well. Massive aircraft, choppers, and a floating fortress that hovered just off the coast of Skull Island. They didn't come to fight Kong. They came to take him. Chains. Harnesses. Gas. None of it was foreign to me. I had seen it before, sitting in that theater in another life. Kong being transported across the ocean, toward a battle that would shake the world. Kong didn't resist. He rarely did unless given a reason. I saw the look in his eyes as he glanced back one final time toward the mountain, the valley, the dens, toward us. Toward me. Then he was gone. Carried off like a living god taken by sky chariots. I stood silent for a long moment. Then I turned and spread my wings. It was time. The elders came at my call. All 5. My eldest son, the wise second, the powerful third, the brave fourth, and the clever fifth, each shaped by the fire and stone of this land, each hardened by time, like me. We met in the stone hall carved into the mountain behind the dens, a place now used for Dragon Council, and where Kong himself once rested. The echoes of his footfalls still clung to the walls. They took him, I said. Monarch. It's the same path I remember from my old life. They didn't question how I knew. Not anymore. And you plan to follow, said the second elder, his voice calm as always. I do, I answered. The clan? Asked the third, always thinking about strength, about defense. I won't leave it alone, I said, already knowing what needed to be done. My mate will act as temporary clan head. Until I return. They nodded, understanding. I left the cave and flew down to the valley. My older children were gathered near the play pond, training the younger ones and guiding strays as they integrated. I landed in front of them with a heavy heart. I'll be gone, I told them. Maybe for days. Maybe longer. They stared at me, wide-eyed but calm. My children had never known weakness. And yet, I could feel the weight of this moment on them. I leave the dens in your care. Keep the ponds clean. Watch the skies. Protect the cubs. Listen to your mother. They nodded, one after another. I looked at each of them. My sons. My daughters. My legacy. I had built a civilization with claws and fire and heart. And now I was leaving it not for power, not for conquest but for an old friend. One who had walked with me through decades of peace. One who was walking into a storm. I turned to the sky. Behind me, the 5 elders followed. Dragons of fire. Titans of sky. We were going after Kong. Not to save him. But to stand beside him when the world cracked open again. Chapter 51, Chapter 51, Wings over Water. The wind was cold and sharp above the sea, but it didn't matter. I soared through the sky with the 5 elder dragons behind me, wings stretched wide and silent against the sun. Below us, the monarch fleet carved a steady path through the ocean, massive ships surrounding a floating metal platform. And on that platform, was Kong. Even from this height, I could see the thick steel bindings wrapped around his wrists and ankles, though they weren't tight. They weren't meant to restrain him. Not really. Just enough to suggest a sense of control to the humans watching from behind reinforced glass and towering machinery. But Kong wasn't fighting. He wasn't roaring. He wasn't pulling at his restraints or crushing the deck with his fists. He just sat there. Head low. Shoulders heavy. There was no fury in him. Just sadness. And all because of one thing, or rather, one person. Jie. The small IWI girl had come out of the helicopter hours ago. She had spoken to him. Touched his face with her tiny hand. Signed words only the two of them shared. And Kong responded not with his usual grunts or primal rage, but with gentleness, something so rare for a beast that large. He had only agreed to go with them for her. For the last living member of the IWI. I hovered in the sky for a moment longer, heart heavy. I remembered this. I had seen it before. Not here. Not like this. But in a different life. A different world. On a screen in a movie theater, just before flames claimed my old body. Godzilla vs. Kong. The war was coming, and Kong didn't know it. He wasn't preparing. He wasn't planning a strategy or waiting to strike. He just wanted to keep the girl safe. I banked to the left and gestured with a wing, signaling the elders to follow. We landed on a steep cliff that rose just above the ocean's waves, out of sight, out of reach. The rocks were slick with sea mist, but our claws dug in easy. They gathered around me, eyes sharp, wings folded tight. "We will not interfere," I said quietly, watching the ship. "Not yet." The third elder grunted. "He's surrounded. If he calls, do we fly?" "Only if he calls," I answered. The second elder's brow furrowed. "You said it yourself, this is the beginning of the end. The Great War. So why do we wait?" "Because Kong doesn't need saving," I said, my voice firm. "Not now. He doesn't care about war or territory or who rules the Hollow Earth. He's not looking to conquer." "Then what does he care about?" asked the fourth elder. "Her." I nodded toward the girl now resting in a makeshift shelter on the deck of the ship, her eyes never leaving Kong. "He follows her. Lives for her. She is his purpose. Not this world. Not some battle." We all fell silent for a moment. Kong wasn't a king of ambition. He was a king of compassion. That's why he was dangerous when threatened, not because of his strength, but because he had something to protect. Then what do we do? The fifth elder asked at last. I looked at them, each dragon bearing scars, age, and experience. I was proud of every one of them. We follow from afar, I said. If Kong needs us, we come. We fly without hesitation, without fear. But until that time comes, we watch. We prepare. But what if he falls before we act? Asked the second elder. I met his gaze, unflinching. He won't. They all turned to look at the distant ship again. Kong still hadn't moved much. But when Jia brought him a piece of fruit and he gently took it from her hand, the fourth elder exhaled. He's soft, the elder muttered. No, I replied. He's strong. And his strength comes from that girl. Silence again. Then, slowly, each elder gave a nod of agreement. I stepped up to the edge of the cliff, wings flaring slightly against the salty breeze. This is not our fight. Not yet. The dragon clan will not rush into another war blind. We are the sky's teeth, the fire beneath the clouds. We are not pawns. We are not soldiers to be spent. They nodded again. And if the time comes, we will rain fire from the heavens. At that, I lifted into the air again, gliding silently over the sea. I stayed far enough to remain hidden, yet close enough to see the movement of every ship. I would not lose sight of Kong. He saved my people once. He protected us when he had no reason to. And now, even without asking, I would repay that debt. Chapter 52, Chapter 52, When Fire Meets the Deep. The sky was grey with tension. Heavy clouds hung low, rumbling with distant thunder. Below, the monarch fleet carved through the waves, carrying Kong chained but calm toward whatever destination the humans had decided for him. I flew high above the ships with my 5 elders spread out around me like sentries. None of us spoke. We didn't need to. The unease in the air said everything. And I remembered this moment. From my past life. From the world before I became a dragon. This was the moment Godzilla came. I didn't know why he attacked the ships, not fully, but I remembered it clearly. The blast. The chaos. The near drowning of the Titan who had become our ally. In that life, I was just a man watching a movie. Now, I was here. Alive. Watching it unfold. A deep rumble echoed from the sea. I looked down. The waves had shifted. The water was moving wrong. Pulling inward like it was scared of something beneath it. Then, a flash. Blue. Bright, radiant blue pulsing beneath the surface. Godzilla. He's coming. I shouted through the sky, my voice rippling like thunder. All 5 elders snapped to attention. Below, Monarch's alarms went off. Lights flickered. Humans scrambled. Kong stood up, towering over the deck of the ship, his chains clinking ominously. I dived fast, fire gathering in my throat. The sea exploded as Godzilla erupted from below, roaring louder than the wind itself. His body crashed into the ships, scattering them like toys. His dorsal fins glowed with searing energy. Kong roared back, straining against the chains. Godzilla's atomic breath lit up the stormy sky. I reacted on instinct, diving straight into its path and releasing a stream of flame. Fire met radiation, and the explosion of steam nearly blinded me mid-air. Water boiled. Metal screamed. The second elder dove beside me, spitting flame at Godzilla's side. The fifth circled wide and rained fire from above. We weren't trying to destroy him. Just stop him. Just remind him that Kong wasn't alone. Below, humans yelled. Systems sparked. But I didn't care. This was between titans. Godzilla roared and turned his glowing eyes toward me. I hovered in the rain, wings wide, staring down the king of the monsters. He didn't fire again. Instead, he paused. Looked around. looked at Kong, who had broken his chains. The great ape surged forward, launching himself off the ship with a roar of fury. The ocean buckled as he landed with a thunderous crash. Water surged upward like an explosion. I held position. We all did. But Kong didn't attack immediately. Neither did Godzilla. They stared at each other across the sea, chest heaving, thunder cracking above. Then all the lights on the ships went out. Instantly. Every hum of technology silenced. The humans turned off everything. Just like in my memories. And for a moment, everything was still. No noise. No motion. Just titans breathing in the storm. Godzilla lowered his head slightly, looking not at Kong, but at us, at the dragons hovering like shadows in the clouds. His glowing eyes flickered. He didn't seem angry anymore. Just confused. Maybe curious. Maybe wary. I held his gaze, then dipped my wings. A sign. Not of surrender. But of respect. Godzilla watched for a second longer, then turned. Slowly. Deliberately. And dove back into the sea, the water closing around him like a silent curtain. The waves stilled. The thunder passed. And he was gone. The second elder flew to my side, smoke trailing from his mouth. He's testing us. I nodded. He'll be back. That wasn't war. That was a warning. Kong climbed back onto the ruined ship and looked at us. We hovered above him. Allies. Not enemies. The rain fell quietly around us now, the chaos behind us. He didn't roar. Didn't beat his chest. He just looked up. And nodded. Not as a king. But as a friend. And I nodded back. Then we flew off, silent shadows in the storm, leaving the humans and their fleets behind. The war hadn't started yet. But it would. And when it came, we'd be ready. Chapter 53, Chapter 53, Journey to the Forgotten World. The sea had gone silent again. A thick layer of frost began forming on the railings of the monarch ships as they made their slow, deliberate path toward Antarctica. The cold bit at the sails and metal with a vengeance, and the sky above was a pale, icy grey. I stood tall on the deck, my claws gripping the steel. The wind howled through my wings, but I didn't mind the chill. It reminded me that change was coming, something ancient. Something deep. Beside me, the 5 elders hovered or perched across different ships. The humans didn't stop us anymore. Our presence was no longer a mystery. We were known. And we were respected. Ever since the sea battle, no one questioned us. We were not monsters. We were Titans, the Dragon Clan. And we had earned our place. Up ahead, I spotted him. Kong. He sat crouched on the largest ship's deck, his breath fogging the air. His chains were gone now, he moved freely, though still watched. But the humans trusted him. And, more importantly, so did we. He was watching her. The little girl. Gia. The last of the IWI. She looked small beside him, bundled in a coat, her tiny hands signing words only he could understand. She touched her hand to her chest. Home. I saw the pain in Kong's eyes, the longing. Not for war. Not for her power. But for her peace. I didn't care for the child the way he did. She meant nothing to me. But I understood the bond. She was his. The last tie to his people. His heart. I didn't interrupt. Instead, I stepped onto the deck beside him. He looked at me. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Then I nodded. And he nodded back. The second elder glided down behind me, his claws clicking on the metal deck. He leaned close and asked, "Why did we follow him this far? This land is frozen. Dead. There's no future here. I didn't look at him. I kept my eyes ahead, toward the growing wall of ice that loomed in the distance Antarctica. No, I said. Not here. Below. The elder blinked. Below. The dragon clan's next home will not be on the surface. I paused. The hollow earth. The elder's eyes widened. He turned to the others, speaking quietly in the old tongue. The other dragons stirred, some excited, others uncertain. But they all looked toward me for confirmation. And I gave it with a slow, deliberate nod. Yes. I remembered. From my past life. The tunnels. The gravity shift. The sky beneath the ground. The cradle of titans. Their birthright. Kong's throne. And now, ours. Not to conquer. Not to rule. But to survive. To thrive. To grow. That place belonged to all titans. And the dragon clan would make it part of their legacy. I turned my eyes back toward the icy cliffs of Antarctica. A storm was building. The gateway was near. And the next chapter of our history was about to begin. Chapter 54, Chapter 54, The Path Beneath the World. The winds of Antarctica howled like ghosts across the frozen expanse, biting into the scales of every dragon present. But none of us flinched. We had endured far worse. We had grown from prey to apex predators, no longer hiding, no longer running. And now, we stood on the brink of another world. In the distance, the massive ice-encrusted ridge cracked open like a wound in the earth itself. The entrance to the hollow earth was not a portal of magic, it was raw nature, forged by ancient forces beyond even our memory. A storm brewed above it, but what stirred inside felt even more ancient, a forgotten realm waiting to be reborn. Kong stood at the edge of the chasm. Snow clung to his fur, his breath rising in visible clouds. Beside him was the last surviving IWI girl, Jiri. She was silent, but even we could feel the way her presence anchored him. His eyes stared deep into the tunnel, his massive form still and heavy with memory. He wasn't just looking into the earth. He was looking into the past. I landed on a jagged outcrop nearby, my wings folding behind me. Behind me, the 5 elders of the dragon clan followed, each powerful in their own right. We had come this far not just out of loyalty, but because I knew something. Something the others didn't. This place, this hollow earth, would become the new home of the dragon clan. Jia moved closer to Kong. She gently placed her small hand against his massive knuckle and began to speak with her hands, signing words in the IWI language. Your family, they're down there. The change in Kong was instant. His eyes flared with emotion, grief, hope, something deeper. He looked once more into the chasm, then stepped forward. 1 step, 2, and with a powerful leap, he fell into the earth. The humans panicked. Lights on their consoles blinked red. Kong has entered the shaft. Someone yelled over the comms. Engage the HEAV's launch now. 2 sleek monarch ships fired their thrusters and descended after him, their engines crackling with plasma. Snow and ice spiraled around them. I looked at the elders. It's time. They nodded without question. Together, we launched into the air, our massive wings splitting the frozen winds as we dove headfirst into the hollow earth shaft. Gravity twisted almost instantly. The walls glowed with ancient energy, and a storm of swirling colors danced around us. Everything felt wrong, then suddenly right. We shot through the wormhole tunnel, lightning lashing at our scales. I felt the world tilt beneath me. My wings folded instinctively, and for a moment, we were falling not in space, not in time, but through reality itself. And then... light. Blinding, golden light. We burst into a realm unlike anything any of us had ever seen. The hollow earth opened around us like a dream. There were mountains floating upside down, rivers suspended in the air, ancient trees the size of castles. Bioluminescent plants pulsed with life. Massive beasts roamed freely, as if untouched by time. Kong landed with a thunderous impact, shaking the ground. He rose to his full height and let out a low, deep roar, one of awe, of belonging. This was his home. The two monarch ships floated overhead, stunned by what they were seeing. Scientists inside scrambled to capture data, take samples, record the impossible. We dragons flew above it all, our eyes wide. This is where we belong, I murmured. The second elder flew beside me. This land is pure. Unscarred. No cities, no machines. The third elder let out a rumble. No humans, except for them. I turned to them. This is where the dragon clan will rise. We'll carve our future from these skies and valleys. The fifth elder, my son, wise and strong, glanced at me. Is this the place you spoke of in the old stories? I nodded. The hollow earth. The cradle of all titans. This world is alive. Below, Kong walked across the land with cautious reverence. Strange creatures stirred at his presence, some massive, others hiding from the sky. He wasn't just walking into a new home. He was walking into his destiny. And we were right behind him. Chapter 55, Chapter 55, A New Flight. The soft rumble of hollow earth never truly stopped. It wasn't silent like the surface world. This place breathed. It pulsed with ancient energy, echoes of a time when titans ruled every corner of the planet, unchallenged. We stood upon a high cliff, overlooking a vast landscape that stretched beyond the horizon. Floating mountains hovered like watchful guardians. Rivers twisted through glowing forests. This land was untouched by civilization, untouched by us. Kong moved slowly through the valley below. He seemed calm, almost peaceful for the first time since we arrived on the surface. The last IWI girl, Ji, rode his shoulder, gazing in wonder at the glowing plants, the unfamiliar sky, and the bizarre creatures that fled from Kong's towering presence. He was safe. For now. I watched him for a while, wings folded, claws settled on the soft stone beneath me. Then I looked at the 5 elders who hovered nearby. They waited for my word. He won't be in danger for some time, I said finally, voice firm but calm. There's no reason for us to remain by his side. The second elder nodded. He has the girl. And the humans. They'll keep watching him. And we, the fifth elder said, his wings stretching wide, we have a clan to prepare for. I stared into the skies above us. This world is perfect for dragons, but we cannot simply settle anywhere. We need space, clean water, strong prey, and shelter. Somewhere we can build not just a nest but a kingdom. Then we begin the search, the third elder growled. We fly. I looked back one last time. Kong was still walking, silent, gentle. His hand shielded Jia as a group of strange flying creatures passed overhead. He didn't notice us leave, and we preferred it that way. With a single beat of my wings, I took to the air. The other elders followed behind me, forming a wide arc in the sky. Below, hollow earth unfolded like a myth. Herds of beasts we'd never seen ran through fields of glowing grass. Caverns opened into glowing depths. Ancient trees the size of fortresses rose into the air. We flew for hours, maybe more. Time was strange down here. And then we found it. A crescent-shaped mountain surrounded by rivers, waterfalls pouring from its cliffs into a deep basin. The air was warmer here. The water clear. And the land teemed with prey, deer-like creatures, thick-scaled boar, and vast flocks of strange birds. We circled, slow and cautious. This place, the first elder murmured, could be it. A home, said the fourth elder softly. I landed first, claws crunching into the soft earth. I walked to the edge of the basin and looked down. The water was deep. There were already fish. There were caves under the cliffs. The land curved naturally like a protective shell. It was perfect. I looked at the sky. This is where we build the heart of the dragon clan. The elders nodded. The first foundations of a new age had begun, not on the surface, not on Skull Island, but here, in the heart of the earth. Chapter 56, Chapter 56, The Taste of Growth. The air in this part of the hollow earth felt thicker, charged with something ancient and untamed. We were far from Kong now, deeper into the unknown parts of this land. The landscape stretched out in ways I hadn't anticipated, vast forests teeming with strange creatures, towering mountains hiding the heart of the world, and deep ravines where light didn't dare to reach. The Dragon Clan needed a home, a place where we could thrive, a place where we could grow without fear. But we couldn't just find it. We had to earn it. That's why we hunted. I was leading the charge, the 5 elders following closely behind. The second elder's eyes were sharp, scanning every shadow. The third, a strong and steady force, barely made a sound as he walked. The fourth stayed a bit behind, careful, watching for any sign of danger. The fifth, newer to the role, but no less important, moved like a ghost, his instincts sharp as the others. Then, in the distance, something caught my eye. A faint tremor in the ground, the movement of something large, something powerful. A thundering growl split the air. Whatever it was close. I motioned to the others. We lifted off in unison, flying above the treetops. The first thing I noticed was the scale of this world. Everything was bigger, more dangerous. The trees towered above us like giants, and the beasts below were as primal as the land itself. Then we saw it. A lizard-like titan, crouched near a cliffside, devouring a carcass. The creature was massive, its scales like jagged armor, and its jaws glistened with the blood of its prey. 6 glowing red eyes stared out from its face, calculating, predatory. It had the power of a mountain behind it, but it was nothing compared to the power that ran in our veins. The creature felt our presence, lifting its head with a hiss. It bared its teeth, its tail snapping in the air like a whip. The earth seemed to groan beneath its massive weight as it rose to face us. We weren't here to make friends. We were here to survive. I was the first to charge. Fire exploded from my mouth, a blast of heat that lit up the sky as it struck the creature's side. It howled in pain, twisting to face me. Its thick armored hide glowed red from the fire, but it didn't fall. Instead, it lunged toward me with a speed I didn't expect. The third elder was faster. He intercepted the titan with a deafening roar, sinking his claws into the beast's armored back. The titan shrieked, its tail smashing against him and sending him skidding across the rocky ground. But we had a strategy. We always had a strategy. The second elder flanked the titan from the left, circling around, his wings beating the air with precision. The fourth followed in close behind, sending gusts of wind to disorient the creature. The fifth, younger and faster, lunged toward its underbelly, digging his claws into its soft belly and pulling at the armor. Together, we were a storm. The titan reeled back, snapping its jaws and slashing with its tail, but it was no use. We knew our enemy, and we were relentless. I dove straight for its face, spewing fire directly into its eyes, blinding it. The creature staggered, roaring in pain as the others overwhelmed it. Finally, with a powerful swipe of my claws, I drove my talons deep into the titan's throat, cutting off its breath. It collapsed, its massive body crumpling to the earth. We stood over it, breathing heavily, but victorious. The air was thick with the scent of blood and battle. I could feel the surge of power within me. I was stronger. We were stronger. I crouched beside the fallen beast, my heart racing. The fight had been fierce, but now it was time to feed. I ripped into the titan's flesh, savoring the raw power within it. The energy that flowed through me, I hadn't felt this in so long. My claws were sharper. My muscles were tighter. My wings beat faster. This was the food we needed, not just for survival, but for growth. This land was filled with powerful creatures, and the more we ate, the stronger we would become. And the dragon clan? We would dominate. I swallowed a mouthful of the meat, feeling the heat of it burning inside me. And then I looked to the others. The second elder nodded, acknowledging the power of the kill. The third elder gave a low growl of approval. The fourth looked thoughtful, calculating. The fifth was already digging in, eager to feel that rush of strength too. We will be unstoppable, I muttered under my breath. I was right. The Titan's strength had transferred to us. We were becoming something more than just dragons. We were evolving, adapting, thriving. But this was just the beginning. The hollow earth was ours to conquer. The more we hunted, the stronger we would grow. And the more we grew, the closer we came to our true potential. The world above had no idea what was coming. And neither did the beasts of the hollow earth. Monster, what if I was reborn as Drogon in Skull Island? Chapter 57, Chapter 57, Beneath the Surface. The lizard titan's body still steamed on the ground, bones split and its blood soaking into the strange, nutrient-rich soil of the hollow earth. I'd eaten my fill, and so had the others, but what mattered more than meat was what came after. That feeling raw power blooming inside me, heat crawling through my veins like fire stoking an ancient forge. I hadn't felt this kind of growth in decades. I could sense it, my muscles thickening, my wings feeling lighter and stronger. My mind sharper. This land was feeding us strength. And that was only the beginning. I turned my gaze to the east, where the land dipped into a vast, lush valley. Trees stretched endlessly, thick and rich, fed by winding rivers and streams that all flowed into a shimmering lake. The lake connected to something even greater, a massive inland sea that glittered like obsidian under the hollow earth's false sky. Compared to Skull Island, this wasn't just bigger, it was untouched. No predators. No rival titans. Just pure, fertile land. It looked like it could support hundreds of dragons, and with how many cubs we had back home, we'd need that space soon. Second elder, I called, my voice echoing low across the rocks, take the other elders. I want every corner of this valley scouted. Every river, every cliff, every cave. This is where the dragon clan will rise. He nodded, and with a beat of wings, they were gone, gliding across the valley to begin. But I had my own mission. My eyes drifted to the sea. I soared over it alone, the air smooth, the water below almost unnaturally calm. I landed on the shore and looked around. The air was warm. Peaceful. But I didn't trust it. Without hesitation, I dove in. The cold struck first. Deeper than expected. The moment I slipped beneath the surface, the light faded fast, the water turning dark green and heavy. The world was quiet under here. Too quiet. I glided lower, letting my body blend with the shadows. Then I saw it. A serpentine shadow, longer than anything I'd seen since the war era, at least 150 feet of scaled muscle. Its body coiled through the depths like a living current, barely making a sound. It saw me the moment I saw it. The snake snapped forward, faster than it had any right to be. I twisted mid-water, dodging the strike, but its tail caught me, smashing me into a rock wall. The pain was sharp, but it just pissed me off. I blasted fire directly into the water. Steam exploded around us. The snake screeched, flinching, and I used the opening, slamming into its midsection, tearing scales free with my claws. It wrapped around me fast. Squeezed. Ribs creaked. Wings crushed against my body. I opened my jaws, unleashing fire straight into its face. Even submerged, the fire boiled water and melted part of its head. Its grip loosened. I twisted free, slashing again and again. Blood filled the water. It tried to retreat, but I wasn't done. I burst upward, flapping once to break the surface, then dove back down at full speed. I caught its head and drove my claws through its eye, splitting bone, ripping brain. It spasmed once, then stilled. I dragged the corpse to shore, soaked and breathing hard. I looked at its size. Its power. This beast had ruled this sea. Now, it was meat. I tore into it, and as the first bite slid down my throat, I felt it again. Stronger than before. A surge that made my wings twitch and my scales harden. I was growing, evolving. This sea, it wasn't just food. It was potential. I stood at the edge, staring across the dark waves. Then I flew, low and fast, tracing its borders. It was vast, at least 5 times the size of our largest pond. And deep. So deep it could hide 100 beasts. But not anymore. Not if we ruled it. By the time I returned to shore, my mind was set. The valley would be ours. This sea our heart. And I would make sure every dragon thrived. Chapter 58, Chapter 58, The Living Sea. The water rippled as I dove back into the sea, the surface bursting open behind me. The cold hit instantly, not unpleasant, more like a jolt of awareness. My wings folded tight, streamlined against my sides as I plunged into the unknown. This wasn't just water, this was an entire world, one hidden beneath a sky of stone. I glided through the depths, and the first thing I noticed was the density of life. Fish in the thousands darted through the water like storm clouds, flashes of silver and red and gold reflecting the faint rays of light that broke through from cracks above. Many were small, perfect for feeding young dragons. But some were big. Titan-sized prey swam lazily in the deeper currents, their long bodies trailing fins and tendrils that glowed faintly in the murk. I moved silently, observing, feeling. The balance here was different. The surface had its rules, its hierarchy. But this sea was ruled by numbers and shadows. A ripple to my right. A shift in pressure. The predator approached. It wasn't like the snake, all rage and coils. No, this one was slow, calculating. A crocodile, at least 50 feet long, its body covered in jagged scars, likely from battles it had long since won. Its yellow eyes glowed faintly in the dark, locked on me. It thought it was the apex here. But it hadn't met a dragon. It lunged suddenly, jaws wide enough to crush a boulder. I dodged to the left, spinning, and raked my claws across its side. Blood clouded the water. It thrashed, tail smashing through coral towers. I darted forward, aiming for the eyes, then bit down hard into its throat. It struggled harder than I thought it would, but I was stronger. I pushed with all 4 limbs, twisted, and then crack. The croc went limp. I held the carcass for a moment, watching it sink. Then I gripped its back and dragged it toward the surface. But I wasn't done. Not yet. I dove again, deeper this time. Below the hunting waters. The sea here was a cathedral of silence, vast, echoing chambers carved from submerged stone, filled with towering weeds and ancient bones. Some of the skeletons I passed were truly massive, likely titans long dead. Their bones formed mazes in the deep. I saw eels longer than trees, glowing softly as they coiled through shadowed reefs. Fish the size of wagons fed near glowing cracks in the seabed. There were creatures I couldn't name, smooth-skinned serpents with no eyes, spined turtles with shells like spiked armor. All of them gave me space, sensing I was something more. I began to feel something familiar in my chest, a slow thrum of hunger, but not for food. For conquest. For dominion. This sea would belong to the dragon clan. And I would be the first to claim it. When I finally broke the surface again, I was dragging the crocodile's corpse in my claws. Water poured from my scales as I took to the sky and flew back to the others. The 5 elders waited near a cliff overlooking the valley. They turned as I landed, the carcass hitting the ground behind me. "I see you've been busy," the first elder said, half impressed, half amused. I nodded. "One of many." The second elder stepped forward, eyes sharp. "How many predators?" "Fewer than expected. One major threat is dead already, the snake. This crocodile was nothing compared to it. But the sea, it's full. Endless fish, some big enough to feed dozens." The fourth elder grinned. "Then we'll feast well." I paced slowly, looking over the valley. "This place, it's perfect." The lizard kept the land clear of predators, but it couldn't enter the water. That's why the sea is wild, unchecked. If we claim it, we control everything. The fifth elder lowered his head respectfully. "What's the plan?" "Tomorrow," I said, "we begin calling the remaining predators. Then we'll bring the clan here. This will be our true home." The first elder let out a low, approving growl. "And this?" He motioned to the crocodile. "For us," I said. "Eat. Regain your strength." The 5 elders descended on the carcass, tearing into it, sharing the meat. I sat at the edge of the cliff, eyes locked on the shimmering waters below. The fish beneath us didn't know it yet, but their world had changed. A new apex predator had arrived. The sea, the valley, the hollow earth, soon, they would all belong to the dragon clan. And I would lead them to it. Chapter 59, Chapter 59, Roar of the King. After the hunt and the feast, our strength was renewed. The 5 elders and I found a wide cave nestled into the mountainside, a high-ceilinged chamber that opened toward the sea. The stone was warm, humming faintly with the hollow earth's strange energy, and the air smelled of minerals and stillness. We settled in for rest. For once, there was peace. The heavy breaths of the elders echoed softly in the cave, wings tucked, claws relaxed. I lay still, half awake, watching the flicker of glowing moss dance across the ceiling. Then it came. A roar. Not just a roar. His roar. Kong. It echoed through the stone and sea like a thunderclap. We all jolted up, instinct kicking in. I didn't need to speak. The others were already moving. We shot out of the cave, one by one, wings opening against the updrafts, rising into the sky. I followed the sound, climbing through a jagged shaft that led upward toward the light. And as we emerged from the hollow earth, a wind like none before slammed into us. We were no longer underground. We were back on the surface. My eyes locked on the sight before us and I froze in midair. Kong. Standing. Axe in hand. Breathing heavy. Facing something immense. And across from him, surging through the water, claws scraping across buildings and scales glowing with searing blue light. Godzilla. I had seen this before. I remembered. In my past life, I watched this moment unfold on a screen. This was it, Kong vs Godzilla, the clash that would shake the world. But this time, I was here. Flesh and fire and wings above the city, watching titans collide. "Stay back," I growled to the elders, and they hovered silently behind me. We weren't here to interrupt the dance of kings, not yet. Godzilla's dorsal fins lit up with that haunting blue glow, and Kong roared again, charging with his axe raised. The air itself trembled. Skyscrapers cracked. Streets split. And I felt it in my bones. This wasn't just a battle. It was history. But I also remembered something else. This fight would end, but it wouldn't be the true threat. The real danger hadn't arrived yet. And when it did, we the Dragon Clan would be ready. I narrowed my eyes, hovering above, feeling the ancient weight of the world shift as titans met in war. This was the turning point. Chapter 60, Chapter 60, The Battle for Alpha Titan. I had seen this before. The battle between Godzilla and Kong, I had witnessed it in my past life. I knew what would come next. The humans would make their move. They would release Mechagodzilla, and that's when everything would change. I stood there, watching Godzilla and Kong trade blows, both titans locked in an epic battle. Kong swung his massive axe, but Godzilla retaliated with a blast of his atomic breath. It was a fight for the ages. Yet, I knew better than to intervene just yet. This fight wasn't over, but it would soon be interrupted. Mechagodzilla. I couldn't let the elders know yet. They didn't understand the intricacies of what was happening, nor did I need them to. They would need to focus on Kong, not on some future event I already knew was coming. I couldn't afford to tell them about Mechagodzilla, about how the fight would shift. I had already seen it play out in my past life. The timeline was fixed. What was coming was inevitable. I turned to the elders, keeping my voice calm but firm. Elder 2, Elder 5, prepare to be at the edge of the battlefield. If Kong falls, you must be ready to help. You'll need to protect him. Stay where you are until that happens. They nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. The rest of the battle continued. Godzilla's atomic breath lashed out, striking Kong in the chest. Kong staggered back, smoke rising from his burned flesh. Despite the damage, he roared in defiance, ready for the next round. Kong wouldn't go down so easily. I had already seen him face worse, but I knew the moment was coming when the situation would take a drastic turn. Just as I expected, the ground trembled again, and I heard the unmistakable sound of engines roaring in the distance. I could already feel it. The humans were moving. Mechagodzilla was coming. It's time. I took a deep breath and spoke to Elder 1 and Elder 4. Get ready. We'll move when the moment comes. We don't interfere in Kong and Godzilla's fight unless it's absolutely necessary. This battle is about their dominance, but there's more going on here than meets the eye. Elder 1 nodded, his eyes narrowing as he understood the subtle warning in my words. Elder 4 stayed silent, always the most contemplative of the group. As Godzilla and Kong continued their battle, Godzilla lashed out with his tail, striking Kong with brutal force. The blast from Godzilla's atomic breath was enough to send Kong flying into the ruins, but I saw the hesitation in Godzilla's movements. Something wasn't right. This wasn't just about Godzilla asserting his dominance over Kong. This was a distraction. I could feel the tension building. Mechagodzilla was close, but I didn't want to reveal everything to the elders. There was still time to let Kong fight, time for the humans to unleash their machine and for Kong to step in and help. I turned to the elders one more time. Wait. We don't act yet. Not until we see Mechagodzilla reveal itself. Kong's strength will not fail him. Suddenly, the ground trembled again, much harder this time. I saw the flash of mechanical limbs in the distance, and I knew instantly what was happening. The humans had unleashed Mechagodzilla, a towering machine built to take down titans. Its presence alone was a grave threat, and it was moving toward Godzilla. I felt a slight twinge in my gut. It was happening. I knew it was coming, and now it was time for me to act. I signaled to Elder 2 and Elder 5, giving them the green light to move to the edge of the battlefield where Kong and Godzilla were about to face off. They needed to be ready, in case Kong needed help. I turned to the rest of the elders. We stay hidden until the right moment, I said quietly. Kong will not fall here. Not yet. The battle between Kong and Godzilla continued to rage, but now, the sky above was filled with the sound of thrusters. Mechagodzilla descended, its massive form casting a shadow over the battleground. The mechanical titan stood tall, far larger than anything I had seen before. Godzilla, now distracted by the new threat, was momentarily caught off guard as Mechagodzilla engaged him. The machine was relentless, its movements precise and calculated, each strike from its massive frame striking Godzilla with brutal force. Godzilla staggered under the assault, his movements sluggish as he tried to counter the attack. But Mechagodzilla had the advantage. This was a fight that would be over in no time. I watched as Kong, realizing that Godzilla was in danger, moved to intervene. It was the moment I had anticipated. Kong swung his axe with all his might, using it to smash into Mechagodzilla with surprising force. The two titans clashed in a brutal fight, both determined to overcome this unnatural opponent. As Kong and Godzilla worked together, I knew that the outcome of this battle was inevitable. Mechagodzilla wouldn't stand a chance against their combined power. But I also knew that this battle was about more than just survival. It was about the balance of power, the future of the Titans, and our place in this world. The fight dragged on, but the end was near. I knew what was coming. I had seen it before, but the dragons had not. And that was fine. I would wait for the moment to strike. I would wait until it was time to join the fight if the need arose. And for now, I watched, prepared to step in when the time was right. Chapter 61, Chapter 61, The battle is not over. I had watched it all unfold in the shadows. Kong and Godzilla, locked in their epic struggle, as I knew they would be. The clash of titans, each blow more thunderous than the last. But then, something I didn't anticipate happened. Mechagodzilla entered the battlefield. I'd seen it in my past life, this mechanical monstrosity built to fight Godzilla, but watching it here, in person, was something else entirely. Mechagodzilla, an enemy unlike anything they had faced before, was far more relentless and vicious than I'd expected. Kong and Godzilla were already weary from their battle, each titanic strike taking its toll on them. When Mechagodzilla attacked, it was unlike anything I could have predicted. Its metallic body moved with precision and deadly force. It wasn't just a weapon, it was a terrifyingly intelligent predator. I watched as Mechagodzilla's claws slashed through Kong's defenses, sending him crashing to the ground. Godzilla, still struggling with his own injuries from their battle, was left unable to mount an effective defense. I could feel the weight of the situation. This wasn't supposed to happen. I knew the future, but I didn't foresee this level of danger. I could hear Kong's roar of pain as Mechagodzilla stomped on his chest, grinding him into the earth. Godzilla was already weak, his movements slow and labored, and Mechagodzilla wasn't letting up. It was only a matter of time before they both fell. I couldn't stand back any longer. Turning to my 5 elders, I spoke in a voice that left no room for doubt. We help them. We don't stand by and let them die. We'll aid them, but we're not here to take over the fight. We're here to ensure they survive long enough to finish this. 1. The second elder looked at me, his brow furrowing. But the battle is between them. Kong and Godzilla. They don't need to fight for dominance anymore, I said, cutting him off. Mechagodzilla changes everything. This is not a battle of alphas. This is a battle for survival. We intervene now, or we risk losing them both. The 5th elder nodded, understanding the gravity of the situation. What's the plan? We spread out, I said. The 2nd and 5th elders, get to the edge of the battlefield. We need to draw Mechagodzilla's attention away from Kong and Godzilla. The rest of us stay in the shadows for now. Wait for the right moment. We don't jump in immediately. We let them fight, but we make sure Mechagodzilla doesn't finish them off. Without a word, the elders dispersed, taking their positions. The battle was intense. I could feel the rumble of the earth beneath me as Mechagodzilla pummeled both Kong and Godzilla with terrifying force. But we had to hold back. If we stepped in too soon, it would change the outcome. The fight had to happen between the two of them, but if either of them fell, we couldn't let that happen. From the edge of the battlefield, I could see Godzilla still trying to recover, his atomic breath crackling weakly as he struggled to focus. Mechagodzilla, relentless in its pursuit, pounced, knocking Godzilla back again. Kong was barely able to rise to his feet, his body bloodied and battered. He roared in defiance, but the mechanical titan was unrelenting. It was clear Mechagodzilla wasn't just a mindless killer, it was smart. It was playing them against each other, waiting for the right moment to finish them both off. Kong swung his axe, a mighty blow aimed for Mechagodzilla's head, but the mechanical titan countered swiftly, dodging and slamming Kong's chest with its massive mechanical arms. Godzilla attempted to use his atomic breath once more, but it barely had the strength to push Mechagodzilla back. It was clear both titans were struggling. It was now or never. The fifth and second elders launched themselves from the shadows, their combined firepower lighting up the sky. The blasts of fire caught Mechagodzilla off guard, distracting it for just long enough. Kong, in his fury, took the opportunity to stand tall once more, swinging his axe toward Mechagodzilla's legs. Godzilla, though struggling, was able to muster a final atomic breath, this time charging it with all his remaining strength. The blast hit Mechagodzilla's chest, knocking it back several feet. But Mechagodzilla wasn't down. It wasn't finished. It roared with mechanical fury, standing tall once more. It was just as powerful as before, maybe even more dangerous now. "We need to finish this," I growled to the elders, my mind racing. Mechagodzilla's resilience is beyond what I thought. If we don't step in now, we might not get another chance. The third and fourth elders nodded, their own fiery breath lighting up the battlefield as they joined the fray, each strike trying to cripple Mechagodzilla. But it wasn't enough. Mechagodzilla countered everything with calculated precision, shrugging off their blows as though they were nothing. "We need to hit its weak spots," the second elder shouted, barely audible over the clashing sounds of battle. "There's no other way." I watched as Kong and Godzilla continued their struggle. Kong, fueled by pure rage, swung his axe again and again, while Godzilla lashed out with his tail and atomic breath. But it wasn't enough. Mechagodzilla was too strong, too powerful, and it was too prepared. Then, finally, I saw it. A weakness. Mechagodzilla's left shoulder, cracked from an earlier blast, was now exposed. It wasn't much, but it was enough. I turned to the second elder and nodded. "That's our shot." Together, the second, fifth, and I coordinated our attack. The second elder unleashed a concentrated burst of fire directly at the shoulder, while I soared in and blasted it with my own fire, pushing it to the brink. The fifth elder, alongside the others, launched another wave of fire to keep Mechagodzilla distracted. Kong saw his chance. With a mighty roar, he leapt forward, his axe aimed straight for the exposed weak spot. The impact was massive, the explosion of energy deafening. Mechagodzilla stumbled, its massive frame faltering as the hit severed its shoulder entirely. Sparks flew from the exposed circuitry. Godzilla, with his last remaining strength, gave a final atomic blast straight into the gaping hole, and with a horrific screech, Mechagodzilla collapsed. But even then, we couldn't relax. The battle wasn't truly over yet. The mechanical titan may have been down, but its destruction would have consequences. We needed to stay vigilant. "We did it," I said, breathing heavily, but my mind was already racing for what might come next. "But we must be prepared. There's always something worse waiting around the corner." The battle wasn't over. Not yet. Chapter 62, Chapter 62, The Aftermath. Mechagodzilla's body hit the ground with a thunderous crash, its limbs twitching before falling still. Sparks flew from its broken joints, the last hum of artificial life fading into silence. The battle was over. Victory was ours. I stood at the edge of the battlefield, blood drying along my scales, heart still racing. Kong dropped his axe and slowly rose to his full height, his chest heaving from exhaustion. Godzilla, scarred and breathing heavily, took a few steps back, his eyes locked with Kong's. Then it happened, the moment of understanding. No growl. No roar. No challenge. Just a nod. A shared respect between two kings. I remained quiet, standing a short distance away. My wings folded against my sides, my gaze fixed on the two titans. Then Godzilla turned toward me. His eyes narrowed, studying me for a moment. And he nodded. Slow. Calm. Deliberate. I nodded back. There were no words to exchange. He knew I had fought alongside them. That my fire had struck Mechagodzilla. That my kind stood not against them, but beside them. That was enough. I turned to the 5 elders gathered behind me, my son, my grandson, and the other 3. They awaited my command. We're done here, I said. Return to Hollow Earth. They listened in silence. Protect the valley, I continued. Kill any predators that remain. That land belongs to our clan now. It must be safe before we bring everyone home. The 2nd and 5th elders nodded and launched into the air first, followed closely by the others. Within moments, they vanished into the clouds, flying toward the valley that would become the heart of our new world. I stayed behind. Kong stood still, his massive frame casting a long shadow over the ruined battlefield. He glanced at Godzilla again, but the king of monsters was already walking away, back toward the sea. He didn't look back. His duty here was done. Kong turned his eyes on me. His expression was calm. There was no threat in his gaze, only understanding. We looked at each other for a moment. Then I gave him a single nod. He returned it. No need for words. We knew our paths were different, but we had stood together when it mattered. I spread my wings and launched into the air, the wind roaring past me as I soared high above the wreckage, flames and smoke growing smaller below. The ocean gleamed in the distance, and far beyond that, Skull Island. My home. My people. It was time to return. Time to lead the Dragon Clan to Hollow Earth. The war was over. A new beginning was calling. Chapter 63, Chapter 63, The Great Migration. The flight back to Skull Island was silent, but not calm. My wings cut through the wind, my thoughts heavier than the air I soared through. The battle with Mechagodzilla had ended, and both Kong and Godzilla had survived just barely. And though I knew what was coming thanks to my memories from a past life, something about watching it unfold in real time settled differently in my chest. But that wasn't what occupied my mind now. I had seen the Hollow Earth with my own eyes. I had tasted the strength in its prey, felt the weight of potential in its valleys and waters. That land was meant for the Dragon Clan. It had everything we needed and more. The others didn't know it yet, but soon, they would. I descended through the clouds and the familiar peaks of Skull Island came into view. The green canopy below rustled softly in the breeze. Dragons flew lazily over the 3 great ponds we had built over the years. It all looked peaceful. Unchanged. But I knew change was coming. I landed quietly near the main pond, close to the dens we had built with mud and fire-hardened walls. My mate looked up from where she was checking on our youngest hatchlings. Our eyes met. She could see the answer in my expression before I even spoke. "You're back," she said simply. I walked up beside her, lowering my head so our snouts touched briefly. "Not for long," I rumbled. "We will be leaving, soon." Her gaze didn't flinch. "Is it ready?" I nodded. "Almost. The valley is cleared, and the 5 elders are holding it. The time to move will come." She understood without another word. Then, without addressing anyone else, not the other dragons flying overhead, not the sentries near the pond, I stepped to the water's edge and slowly entered. The cool water surrounded me, and I waited until I was completely submerged. It had been so long since I truly explored this pond, our oldest. I swam down, past the rocks and plants, past the beds of smooth sand and gravel. I reached the bottom, where stone and packed dirt met like a shield. And then I began to dig. Claws swept through the muck slowly but purposefully. I didn't have a goal. I wasn't sensing anything strange. No power source. No ancient presence. Nothing whispered in the water. I just wanted to know. I needed to know. What was beneath Skull Island? We had lived here so long, fought for it, bled for it, raised generations here. And now that we were preparing to leave, a question gnawed at me: what had always been beneath our feet? I dug slowly, making sure not to disturb the pond's structure. I didn't want to collapse anything or cause the pond to drain. This was for knowledge, not destruction. Bits of stone gave way to layers of dense, reddish soil. Then deeper, I reached a strange mixture of hardened clay and volcanic rock. Still nothing unusual, but I wasn't done. I took a break from digging and swam back up, letting the cool water wash the dirt and grit from my claws. One of the younger dragons passed overhead, not noticing me below. Good. I wasn't ready to tell the others. Not yet. I didn't even know what I was looking for. Maybe nothing. Maybe everything. But tomorrow, or the next day, when the time came to lead the clan to their new home, I wanted to know what we were leaving behind. Even if it was just soil and silence. Chapter 64, Chapter 64, The Hidden Gate. The pond had always been still, serene on the surface, holding the calm strength of a home well built. But now, as I dug deeper than ever before, something changed. I had only just struck a strange layer of stone, smooth and oddly warm, when the water around me began to swirl violently. The dirt I disturbed didn't float like normal, instead, it was sucked downward. The water twisted into a vortex, and before I could react, everything fell. My body lurched as the entire bottom of the pond gave way, a silent pulse rippling through the water like a heartbeat. Rocks, plants, and fish were all pulled into the abyss. My wings instinctively spread, but it was too late. I was falling, spinning. Then light. And warmth. And suddenly I was no longer underground. I shot out of the swirling tunnel of water and air and dropped into a vast, open body of water. The same sea in the hollow Earth's valley, the very one I had explored earlier. I rose to the surface, coughing water and shaking the dizzy spell from my mind. Looking around, I realized the pond was a portal. Not just any portal, but a direct tunnel from Skull Island to the hollow Earth, and it connected straight into the massive sea nestled within the dragon's new valley. A powerful realization struck me. That meant if we sent prey, deer, boar, even cattle into the pond, they'd emerge here. Alive. Confused maybe, but unharmed. And not just prey, dragons too. This portal wasn't just a doorway. It was the safest, most efficient way to relocate the entire clan. I floated for a moment, stunned. Suddenly, I heard wings slicing the air. A moment later, Elder One, my eldest son, landed on a ledge above the sea. He looked confused and alarmed. Then Elders 2 and 4 arrived, followed by 3 and 5. They had clearly sensed something was wrong when the pond erupted back on Skull Island. You fell. Elder 2 called out, squinting down. I climbed out of the water and shook myself off before nodding. I dug too deep, I said. And found this. They glanced at each other, confused. The bottom of the pond was a gate, I explained. It links directly to the sea. All the water and fish from the pond were dragged through with me. Elder Two's eyes widened. So that's why we saw a rain of water and fish just now. I turned back toward the horizon, staring across the vast sea. What if? I began slowly, we used this? Not just to bring prey, but to move the entire clan. No more flying through storms. No more moving one group at a time. Everyone could travel through this safely. They were quiet for a moment. Only one problem, I muttered, turning back. It's a one-way gate. I had already tried. I dove back into the same spot under the sea where I fell out. Nothing happened. No pull. No light. Just cold water and stone. The portal only leads one way, I added. From the Skull Island pond, to here. Elder 3 raised a brow. Then how will you return? I looked up, already planning ahead. I'll do it the long way. I took one last look at the sea, already picturing prey grazing along the shores, dragons swimming in the deep, and hatchlings playing in the waves. I spread my wings and launched into the air, flying toward the upper caverns of the hollow earth. After reaching the edge of the surface breach, the same one I had flown through before, I shot out into the clouds above Hong Kong. It wasn't easy, but it was the only path back. From there, I turned and began my flight home, to Skull Island. It was time to prepare the Great Migration. Chapter 65, Chapter 65, The Great Preparation begins. The flight back from the hollow earth to Skull Island was long, hours passing like wind over stone, but I didn't rest. Not even for a moment. The weight of the discovery pulsed in my chest like fire. That portal, it was more than a gate. It was freedom. It was future. When I arrived, the sky was dim, clouds rolling in over the jungle. My wings beat hard against the wind as I descended toward the central territory of the Dragon Clan. The smell of smoke and fresh soil greeted me as I landed beside our massive pond, now calm again, as if it hadn't just swallowed a part of itself and dropped it into another world. I saw my mate by the water, watching the younger dragons play nearby. She turned as I approached. "You're back," she said softly, walking to my side. "You look different." I nuzzled her briefly and whispered low so only she would hear, "We found the path." Her eyes widened, but I said nothing more. I would explain later, but first I had to act. I let out a powerful roar, long and deep, one that echoed across the jungle and stirred every dragon heart on the island. Birds took to the sky, and trees shook with the force of it. I repeated it once more, then a third time. All adult dragons, no matter their age or role, knew what that call meant. Within minutes, dozens began arriving. Elders returned from their patrols, hunters emerged from the trees, and even the strongest builders came from their dens. By the time they had all gathered near the pond, there were nearly 100 dragons scaled in reds, blacks, golds, and stormy silvers. My children, grandchildren, adopted strays, and bonded kin. A massive force of strength and loyalty. I climbed atop a tall rock overlooking the pond and raised my voice. "We begin now." They fell silent. "Our clan will move soon. The hollow earth will become our home. Not tomorrow, not next moon, but soon. And before we go we must prepare it." I let that sit for a moment before continuing. "We have found a portal. A path that leads from this pond, directly to the valley in the hollow earth. The fish and water that vanished? They now fill the great sea where our future lies." A quiet murmur passed among the dragons. Shock. Curiosity. Hope. "Today," I roared, "we begin the first step of the Great Migration." I pointed toward the herds on the eastern hills, where cattle, boar, deer, and horses grazed, animals we had raised and protected for generations. "Half of you will begin guiding the prey to the pond. Push them in. Let the water carry them through the gate. They will feed the future." Heads nodded. Wings stretched. Tail slaps of agreement echoed through the clearing. "The other third, the strongest among you, will dig." They turned to look at the pond. "We will make it wider. Deeper. A true river to the hollow earth. So that prey many at once can pass. Even young dragons can swim through without fear." A great rumble of approval rose up. I turned to the remaining dragons. "The rest of you guards. Keep the skies and jungle clear. We move prey today. We dig today. And we do it fast." Without hesitation, they began to move. Dragons lifted into the sky in squadrons, flying toward the fields. Others rushed through the trees on all fours, fast and determined. The digging team, massive earth dragons, lava-scaled beasts, and iron-backed drakes stepped forward. I joined them. At the pond's edge, we began digging. Claws raked through the earth, fire melted rock, and tails shattered roots. We worked with rhythm and ancient, unspoken understanding flowing between us. Dirt flew into the sky, steam rose where heat met mud, and the scent of wet stone filled the air. Hours passed. From the hilltops, the sound of crashing hooves echoed. I saw dragons herding prey into the clearing. The first wave of deer were coaxed into the pond, some panicking and splashing, but eventually diving deep enough to vanish into the swirling water. Success! Soon, cattle followed, then boars, then wild elk. Each group disappearing beneath the water, pulled safely into the hollow earth. The digging continued. We tore a massive channel from the jungle into the pond, letting water flow faster. We removed the pond's edges, creating shallow ramps for the animals to walk down without slipping. We lined the banks with hardened stone, fired by our own flame. The sun began to set. The air shimmered with heat and power. Young dragons watched from the trees, wide-eyed and inspired. By nightfall, we had nearly doubled the pond's size. Hundreds of animals had been sent through. The pond boiled with movement, swirling slowly into the hidden gate that waited below. And still, we dug. Because the future was almost here. Chapter 66, Chapter 66, Sealing the Gate, The Long Way Home. The pond was quiet now, a still mirror beneath the pale moonlight. The herds were gone, the dirt was packed and smoothed, and the portal had swallowed its final prey for the day. The time had come. I turned to the remaining adult dragons, those I trusted the most, and motioned to the sleeping younglings nearby. Carry them. Make sure they don't wake until you're through, I said softly. A few bowed their heads. One by one, dragons spread their wings, gently lifting baby dragons with their talons, cradling them against their chests or backs. Some of the hatchlings stirred, mumbling little growls in their sleep, but none awoke. They were safe. And they were going home. The last adult dragon to take off turned to me. "What about you?" he asked. "I'll follow," I said, stepping back from the water's edge. "I have one last thing to do." He nodded and took to the sky. And then I was alone. I looked at the pond, the last connection between this world and the hollow earth. An exposed artery. A risk. I couldn't leave it open. I stepped into the shallows, dragging in trees, rocks, clay, hardened mud, anything I could find. It took hours. My claws blistered and bled, my wings hung heavy and limp. Still, I worked. I layered the bottom of the pond with boulders, smashed roots into gaps, caked layers of sticky mud between the cracks. I tore massive slabs of stone from nearby cliffs and dropped them into the water. Then, when the pond bottom looked like a chaotic wall of nature's mess, I stepped back and unleashed fire, a roaring, molten blaze that burned red and gold. Steam rose in great clouds, hissing like 1,000 snakes. The mud hardened. The rocks fused. The water churned and boiled, then cooled again. It wasn't perfect. I knew that. "This won't stop them," I muttered to myself, staring into the dark pool. "But it'll slow them down, if something ever tries to come through." Because the world was changing. Monarch. Apex. Titans. And in the hollow earth, my people had a chance to thrive. But only if they weren't hunted down before they even settled. I stood there for a long moment. Then I turned my head to the sky and took off. I flew straight to Hong Kong, wind howling against my wings. But as I approached the surface above the portal point, I spotted something: searchlights. Choppers. Dozens of them. Monarch was here, guarding the site, maybe still confused by the dragons that had helped defeat Mechagodzilla. I hovered for a moment above the clouds. No. Not now. I didn't want to be seen. Not when I was this tired. Not when I had a clan to protect. So I turned south. Antarctica. Hours passed. My wings ached, my muscles trembled from exhaustion. But eventually I reached the icy wastelands. Snow blew hard across the frozen expanse, but just like in Hong Kong, I saw Apex presence. More helicopters. More guns. More lights. Even if I could fight, I didn't want to. I just wanted to go home. I flew low, gliding through the storm, eyes scanning the earth. I searched for any sign of something, or someone who could help. And then I felt it. A deep tremor beneath the earth. Familiar. Heavy. Ancient. Godzilla. I followed the vibrations until I reached the frozen coastline. And there he was, massive and terrifying, his dorsal plates glowing faintly in the cold gloom. He turned as I landed near the shore, eyeing me with cautious recognition. I lowered my head. I need your help. He stared at me, silent. I spoke again. My clan is moving. We're going to the Hollow Earth. But Monarch and Apex, they block the way. I won't fight unless I have to. My people are already there. I just want to get back. For a moment, I thought he wouldn't care. But then his massive head dipped slightly in understanding. And without a sound, he turned and began walking into the ice. I followed. Within minutes, he led me to a hidden crevice, a portal I had missed before, one tucked beneath the frozen cliffs, crackling faintly with energy. Godzilla stepped aside, glowing brighter for just a second, as if to say, "Go." 1. I looked at him. And I bowed my head once more. Then I stepped into the light and let the hollow earth pull me home. Chapter 67, Chapter 67, The Reunion and the Path Forward. I soared through the skies, the familiar winds of Skull Island replaced by an unfamiliar air that bit at my scales. I had passed through the portal from Earth, but the land beneath me felt foreign. This was no longer Skull Island. No, I had flown into the hollow earth, a place I had only begun to understand. The landscape around me was vast and uncharted. Strange mountains loomed ahead, their jagged peaks reaching high into the mist. The vegetation here was unlike anything I had seen before, lush and vibrant, yet almost otherworldly. The air was thick with the scent of the unknown, and I couldn't shake the feeling that I had flown into a part of the hollow earth that even the dragons had yet to explore. I landed, folding my wings tightly against my back. This place. I didn't know where I was. The valley where the dragons had settled was still far from here, and I had no idea which direction to go. The vastness of the hollow earth stretched out before me, like a labyrinth that didn't care whether I was lost or not. I shook my head, trying to clear the confusion. I couldn't waste time here. I needed to find the valley, find my clan, and make sure the dragons were safe. The hollow earth was large, but I had come here for a reason, to establish a new home for the clan. Before I could gather my bearings, I sensed movement around me. My heightened senses picked up on something: dragons, approaching. The third elder, one of my most trusted, led a small hunting squad that had been scouting the area. They were quick, efficient, and skilled in navigating the hollow earth's terrain. As I watched, I saw them emerge from the dense foliage, their eyes wide as they spotted me. "Clan leader," the third elder called out, bowing respectfully. "We've been searching for you. You've arrived in an unfamiliar area. Are you all right?" I nodded, though the confusion was still present in my mind. "I've arrived, but I don't know where I am. This place is different. I need to find the valley, where the others are." The third elder's eyes narrowed slightly, a spark of determination flickering in them. "We will help you. We've mapped out some of the land here, but much of it remains unexplored. I've sent the others back to the valley to report. I will guide you." I nodded, relieved to have the third elder's guidance. Together, we set off, leaving the unfamiliar area behind us. The journey was slow, the landscape stretching out endlessly before us. I couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder at the world around me, the strange creatures, the twisted plants, and the impossibly tall trees. The hollow earth was as beautiful as it was dangerous. As we walked, I could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on me. The dragons needed a safe place to call home, but the dangers of this land were beyond anything I had expected. The valley had been a sanctuary, but I wasn't sure what lay beyond it. Finally, after what seemed like hours of walking, the terrain began to change. The ground became more familiar, and I felt the presence of the valley not far ahead. "We're close," the third elder said, his voice steady as ever. "The others are waiting for you." As we reached the edge of the valley, I saw the dragons in the distance, their figures silhouetted against the sun. The valley stretched out before me, a place of peace amidst the chaos of the hollow earth. The water, the mountains, and the prey, everything was in place. I couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. We were safe for now. But there was still much to do. "Thank you, third elder," I said, my voice full of gratitude. "Now, we move forward. We have a new home, but we must protect it. Let's gather the clan." The third elder nodded and took a step back, signaling the others to join us. The dragons were waiting, and I knew that our work was far from over. But for the first time in a long time, I felt a sense of hope. The hollow earth was vast, and there was much to explore. But it was ours now. Chapter 68, Building a Future. The hollow earth stretched out before me, and though its vastness felt overwhelming, there was a renewed sense of purpose coursing through my veins. The journey had been long, and now, here we were at the edge of a new beginning. I stood at the threshold of the valley, where the rest of the dragon clan had settled. The dragons were waiting for me, their gazes filled with curiosity, determination, and a bit of unease. This was their new home, and it was up to me to make sure they thrived. The clan had grown significantly, and now, the numbers were staggering. There were 152 adult dragons, including warriors, hunters, and caretakers, and 24 young dragons, all still learning to hone their abilities. It was an impressive sight, and though the land was vast, I knew that the hollow earth would not be an easy place to settle. But I was confident that if we worked together, we would make it our home. I called the clan together, my voice carrying over the crowd. "Dragons of the clan, listen up," I began, my eyes scanning the faces of those before me. "We have found a new home here in the hollow earth. There are dangers here, but there is also opportunity. This valley will be ours, but we must work hard to secure it." I let the words settle before continuing. "The young ones will need to be protected. The adults will need to help them grow stronger. For now, we will use the caves as shelter while we begin building our homes. I want each of you to start gathering materials: rock, wood, clay, whatever we can use to build. This valley will be our new stronghold." The clan murmured in agreement, the energy around them shifting from uncertainty to determination. "Also, if you see any predators, do not hesitate to kill them. We will make this place safe for ourselves and the young. This is our land now, and we must protect it with everything we have." The third elder, standing by my side, gave a sharp nod, his gaze sweeping over the other dragons. He had been with me since the beginning, and I trusted him more than anyone else. He had seen the growth of our clan firsthand, and his experience would be invaluable in leading the effort to secure the valley. "We will start by clearing the area around the caves," the third elder said. "And I will organize a team to begin hunting and gathering. We must be vigilant, but we will work as one." I nodded, grateful for his support. "Good. The rest of you, gather the materials and begin fortifying the caves. We'll need to make them strong enough to withstand any threats that may come our way. It's better to be prepared." With that, the clan dispersed, the adults setting off to find materials, while the younger dragons began to play in the open areas, under the watchful eyes of the elders. The valley was starting to feel like home, and with every step, I felt more confident in our decision to settle here. I glanced around, my mind racing with the possibilities. The hollow earth was a world full of wonders, but also dangers. But with this clan, this family, we would carve out a place for ourselves. We would thrive. I turned back to the third elder. Keep an eye out for any predators. The last thing we need is a surprise attack. He nodded. We'll be ready. As I flew above the valley, I watched the dragons begin their work. Some were already scouting the perimeter, while others began digging or collecting materials. The young dragons played, their energy a reminder of what we were all fighting for. The hollow earth was vast, and there was so much left to explore, but this valley would be the heart of our new life. For the first time since our journey began, I allowed myself a moment of rest. This was just the beginning. The hollow earth would be a new home for us, but we still had a long road ahead. The predators would need to be dealt with, the land secured, and the clan strengthened. But we would do it together. 1. Chapter 69, Chapter 69, A Year of Growth. A year had passed since we first settled in the hollow earth, and in that time, the dragons of our clan had grown, not just in number, but in strength, unity, and ambition. The valley that was once empty and foreign to us was now thriving with activity. The dragons had adapted to the land, and what once felt like a wild, untamed world now had the order and structure of a burgeoning civilization. The most notable change was our mini-city, an impressive cluster of 37 houses, each built from the resources gathered over the months. Some were simple, small, and functional, but others were more elaborate, showcasing the growing ingenuity and skill of the dragons. While many of the adults still lived in caves, these houses were a sign of our progress. They were homes for those who wanted to settle down, for the dragons who were ready to begin building more permanent lives in this new world. The houses were designed to withstand the elements of the hollow earth, using clay, rock, and even the thickest of tree trunks to form sturdy walls and roofs. The clan had become more organized, more cohesive. The younger dragons had grown larger and stronger. The prey had increased in number as well, and the valley was starting to feel like a sanctuary. The first signs of a flourishing ecosystem were everywhere. The rivers teemed with fish, the forests were full of boar, deer, and smaller creatures, and the skies were alive with flocks of birds. Our efforts to clear out predators had paid off. There was peace in the valley. But it wasn't just the environment that had changed. I, too, had grown stronger in this time. I had once been proud of my 100-foot length, my size and strength, but now, standing tall, I was a 300-foot-long dragon from head to tail. When I stood upright, I towered at 100 feet, and when I spread my wings, I could cast a shadow with a 1,000-foot wingspan. The power in my body, the energy that surged through me, felt immense. I could feel the weight of responsibility on my shoulders, but also the satisfaction of seeing my clan thrive. 2. But with growth came a new need for learning. We couldn't afford to have our young dragons grow without purpose, without training. And so, I created a system, a way for them to learn not just to hunt, but to live together, to understand danger, and to become true warriors of the hollow earth. I called upon my mate to help me in this endeavor. She had been with me through everything, and her wisdom and nurturing nature made her the perfect choice to lead the education of our clan's next generation. Together, we set up what could be considered a school of sorts, though it was less formal and more practical. Every day, the young dragons would gather in one of the larger caves that we had cleared out, a space filled with open areas for practice. There, they would learn the ways of the hunt, the strategies to survive in this wild land, and how to protect themselves and the clan from danger. My mate and I divided the lessons. She focused on the spiritual side of dragon life, the importance of unity, the responsibility we had to each other, and the delicate balance between nature and power. I focused on the practicalities, combat training, understanding the ecosystems of the Hollow Earth, and the art of the hunt. Each lesson was designed to teach them how to be part of a greater whole. They learned teamwork, how to work together to bring down prey larger than any one dragon could manage alone. They learned the signs of danger, the creatures of the Hollow Earth that would need to be faced head-on and the ones that would require strategy and precision. But perhaps the most important lesson was in how to live together. With over 150 adult dragons now in our clan, we needed to teach respect, harmony, and cooperation. The young dragons saw us, the elders, and the other members of the clan working together every day. They understood that we were a family both by blood and by choice, and that the strength of the clan relied on the strength of the bonds between us all. The results were already starting to show. The dragons were growing in stature and wisdom. Our young warriors, once eager and untested, were now confident and capable, their strength and abilities on par with the best of the adults. Our younger hunters had become faster, more efficient, and more discerning when choosing their prey. They had learned to read the land, to know the patterns of the creatures, and to respect the natural order of the Hollow Earth. The prey which had once been sparse and difficult to hunt had increased in numbers as well. The boars, deer, and other animals that we had previously hunted now thrived in the valley, their populations flourishing as a result of the protection we had provided. It was clear that the balance between predator and prey had shifted in our favor. The Hollow Earth was adapting to us, just as we had adapted to it. But the one thing I could not ignore was the strength that had continued to grow within me. The dragon within me had always been powerful, but now I was something else, something larger, more formidable. As my body continued to grow, I realized that the path I had once walked was only the beginning. This land held untold secrets, challenges, and threats, some of which we had already faced, and many more that we would encounter in time. But for now, we were thriving. The young dragons were learning, the adults were working, and the Hollow Earth was becoming our home. And though there was still much to do, I knew that this was just the beginning of our journey. We would continue to grow stronger, together, with each passing day. Chapter 70, The Visitors from Beyond. It had been another peaceful day in the Hollow Earth. The dragons had grown accustomed to their new lives, the young ones learning faster with each passing week, the adults steadily working to improve our homes and hunting grounds. The valley, once a strange and foreign land, now felt like a sanctuary. But life, as always, has a way of surprising us, and that day was no different. I was flying over the valley, surveying the progress of the new houses and hunting grounds, when I felt it. A ripple through the air, a presence I had not felt in months. The ground beneath me shifted slightly, and my keen senses picked up the unmistakable thrum of two ancient forces coming closer. I had no doubt who it was. Kong and Godzilla were coming to visit. I landed near the center of the valley, my wings folding against my body as I touched down. My heart beat faster, both from excitement and the quiet anticipation that always came with such powerful beings. The dragons, who had been busy working on their various tasks, paused and watched with a mixture of awe and curiosity. Word of these legendary creatures had spread, and now they were about to see firsthand the two titans of the world. I stood tall as they approached, the ground quaking slightly under the massive steps of the creatures I had come to know and respect. The first to emerge was Kong, the great ape who had become a legend in his own right. He walked with a regal air, his enormous form casting a shadow over the land. His eyes met mine, and in them, I saw the same strength and wisdom that had been there before, but now there was something different, something that suggested he had grown even further, evolved in ways beyond what I could imagine. Behind him, slowly following, was Godzilla, the king of monsters, a true force of nature. His massive body was a silhouette against the horizon as he made his way toward us, the ground trembling with every step. He was just as imposing as ever, but there was a calmness to his movements, a certain restraint in his demeanor that I hadn't seen before. The time they had spent together had clearly affected him. As they neared, I walked forward to meet them. Kong's eyes locked onto mine as he approached, and there was a familiar sense of mutual respect between us, born from our shared experiences in battle and survival. We had faced the dangers of the world together, and that bond had not weakened. "You've come," I said, my voice rumbling like thunder as I addressed Kong, though my eyes moved to Godzilla as well. "What brings you here today?" Kong gave a deep, rumbling growl before answering. "We've come to see how the Dragon Clan is faring in their new home. And we've come to thank you," he said, his voice heavy with sincerity. "You helped us once, and now it is time for us to return the favor." I tilted my head slightly, confused for a moment. "Thank you? For what?" Kong's eyes softened as he stepped forward, his massive form towering above me. "A year ago, you helped us defeat Mechagodzilla. If not for you and your dragons, Godzilla and I might not have survived. We owe you, and now it is our turn to repay the favor." He reached behind him, and I saw Godzilla step forward, his massive body moving with an eerie grace for his size. Kong gestured, and I could see that Godzilla was carrying something on his back, a large, strange object wrapped in vines and leaves. It was a gift, but I couldn't yet tell what it was. "You didn't have to come all this way," I said, my voice filled with quiet gratitude. "We did what was necessary. But I'll accept whatever gift you bring." Godzilla, despite his usual silence, made a low, rumbling sound in his throat that could almost be interpreted as a growl of agreement. Kong, on the other hand, seemed eager to present the gift, his powerful hands unwrapping the vines with care. What emerged from the wrapping was a massive stone, dark and jagged, the surface etched with strange, ancient runes that I had never seen before. It glowed faintly, pulsing with a soft blue light. The energy emanating from it felt familiar but also alien. There was power in that stone, ancient and deep, something that could not be easily explained. "This," Kong said, "is a stone of power. It was once a relic of the Hollow Earth, a symbol of strength and balance. Godzilla and I found it deep within the heart of the Hollow Earth. It was meant to be wielded by the strongest of creatures, and now we offer it to you and your clan. Use it to fortify your home, to protect your family, and to guide the future of the Dragon Clan." I felt the weight of Kong's words. He had given us something that went beyond a simple gift. This was a symbol of their trust, their respect, and their acknowledgement of the strength of the Dragon Clan. The stone would not only serve as a physical protector but as a guide, a beacon of strength and wisdom. I reached out and touched the stone, feeling the pulsing energy beneath my claws. It was as if the stone itself was alive, vibrating with the power of the Hollow Earth, and in that moment, I knew that Kong and Godzilla were not just titans, they were also protectors of the land. And now, they had chosen to share that protection with us. "Thank you," I said, my voice filled with awe. "This is more than I ever expected. You have my word that we will honor it." Kong grinned, showing off his massive teeth, before looking to Godzilla. The two nodded at each other, a silent understanding passing between them. It was clear that their bond was more than just that of allies, it was a brotherhood forged in battle, one that would last forever. After a few moments of silence, Kong spoke again. "We've come to see how the clan has grown. Tell us, how are things progressing here in the Hollow Earth?" I nodded, my gaze sweeping over the valley, now bustling with dragons at work. "We've made a lot of progress. The valley is a safe place for our dragons, and they've begun to thrive. They're learning, growing, and becoming stronger with each day. The prey is plentiful, and the danger is almost non-existent now. But there is still much to be done. The clan is growing fast, and we will need more resources and knowledge to ensure that our future is secured." Godzilla's low rumble echoed through the valley, and Kong gave a thoughtful growl. "We will help however we can," Kong said. "If you need anything, if the dragons require more strength or wisdom, we will provide it." I nodded, deeply appreciative of their willingness to help. But deep down, I knew that our journey had only just begun. The hollow earth was vast, and its secrets were far from being fully uncovered. There would be challenges ahead, threats that we couldn't yet predict. But with Kong and Godzilla by our side, I felt confident that we could face anything the world threw at us. As we spent the rest of the day talking, Kong and Godzilla took in the sights of the valley, observing how our clan had adapted to this strange new world. They were not just guests, they were allies, part of our extended family now. When it came time to part ways, I watched them disappear into the horizon, knowing that their visit had only strengthened the bond between our clans. We weren't just dragons anymore. We were part of something much larger, a legacy of strength, unity, and survival that would echo throughout the hollow earth for generations to come. Chapter 71, Chapter 72, The Stone Beneath the Surface. 1 week had passed since Kong and Godzilla's visit, and life in the hollow earth had become more settled. The dragons had adapted to their new environment, and the valley was now alive with activity. New homes had been built, hunting grounds expanded, and the young ones were growing strong under the tutelage of the older dragons. It was a time of peace, but I knew well enough that such peace was never guaranteed forever. Still, for now, the clan thrived, and that was enough. Today, however, I was focused on something different, a personal journey, a deep dive into the waters beneath our valley. The sea, ever abundant with life, had always fascinated me. In the past year, I had seen the dragons grow, their strength increasing, but I felt there was something more to be done, something deeper, something that could amplify their power even further. The sun had just started its descent behind the massive mountains that surrounded the valley, casting an amber hue over the water. I spread my wings, took flight, and made my way down toward the sea. Below, I could see the silhouettes of a few baby dragons, their small bodies darting through the water as they hunted under the watchful eyes of a couple of the more seasoned adult dragons. As I dove deeper, I marveled at how much the younger dragons had learned in such a short period. The water was their playground, and it was also where they had perfected their hunting. With the guidance of the adults, the baby dragons had become skilled at using the currents to their advantage, chasing smaller prey through the underbrush of coral and seaweed, their movements graceful and swift. I circled them briefly, watching as they hunted in packs, working together to trap their prey. The older dragons, though not as fast, had become patient hunters. They stayed still in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike, their eyes gleaming with the wisdom of countless hunts. The younger dragons were improving, but there was still much they needed to learn. After a while, I dove deeper, the water growing colder and darker the farther I went. The sounds of the underwater world became muffled, and only the occasional flicker of movement from fish or shifting currents broke the silence. It was here, in the depths, that I began to feel a presence, a faint pulse, a hum of energy resonating through the water. As I swam further down, I saw it. The stone of power, the very same stone Kong and Godzilla had gifted us, the one that pulsed with strange energy. It lay at the bottom of the sea, resting on the sandy floor like a forgotten relic. The faint glow from its surface illuminated the water around it, casting an ethereal light that seemed to attract the smaller creatures swimming nearby. I paused before it, hovering in the water as I examined the stone more closely. The power emanating from it was undeniable. It was not overwhelming, not a force that could shake the world, but it was constant, steady and deep, like the very heartbeat of the hollow earth itself. I had always felt its energy since Kong had gifted it to us, but being here, underwater, I could feel it in a different way. The power felt more amplified beneath the surface of the water. A thought struck me then. What if the stone could do more than simply provide strength to those who wield it on land? What if I could harness this power and connect it to the very waters that sustained the dragon clan? I had been thinking about this for a while now, but seeing the stone here, in its natural resting place, cemented my decision. I swam closer to the stone, its energy seeming to hum in response to my presence. Carefully, I positioned myself next to it, using my claws to gently lift it from the sandy floor. The stone was heavy, much heavier than it appeared, but I was strong enough to carry it without issue. With the stone secured in my claws, I swam to a nearby outcrop of rocks, carefully setting it down on a flat surface. The water around it seemed to pulse, the currents shifting slightly in response to the stone's presence. I knew that this was no ordinary object, this was something ancient, something that carried the very essence of the hollow earth within it. I thought for a moment, considering how I could best utilize this power for the dragons. After a while, it came to me. The valley's water had become a crucial part of the ecosystem for the dragons. The young ones, especially, often hunted and played in these waters, drinking from the pools that dotted the land. What if the energy from the stone could imbue the water with a constant flow of power? Every time a dragon drank from the water or ate from the sea, they would be gaining strength, becoming more powerful, faster, and sharper. It could amplify their growth and hunting abilities, making them stronger than ever before. With that idea in mind, I set the stone down on a ledge, carefully wedging it between two larger rocks so that it would remain steady. As I did, I noticed something. The stone's glow seemed to intensify as it touched the water, almost as if it was reacting to its new surroundings. I took a deep breath and dipped my head beneath the surface, letting the water flow around me. The energy from the stone pulsed through the water, and I could feel it, an undercurrent of strength, rising and ebbing with each passing moment. It was subtle, but it was there. I knew that this was the beginning of something that would change everything. Over the next few hours, I spent time ensuring the stone was secure, repositioning it to maximize its effect on the water. I made sure that it was placed in the deepest part of the sea, where the dragons were most likely to hunt. As I worked, I could feel the energy of the stone seeping into the water, creating a subtle shift in the currents. The fish seemed more vibrant, the young dragons more energized as they swam past, and the feeling in the air was different, richer, more powerful. I stayed in the water, savoring the newfound strength that coursed through the currents. It was a deep, subtle change, but I could feel it within my very bones. I knew the dragons would feel it too, especially when they came to drink or hunt in this sea. After a while, I surfaced, taking a moment to breathe in the fresh air before diving again. I looked around, making sure the placement of the stone was just right. It was perfect. The power would flow through the water, and the dragons would benefit from it every time they came here to drink or hunt. I swam back to the surface, feeling more energized than I had in a long time. The stone's power was now a part of the sea, and I could sense that it would grow stronger as time passed. I knew that, in time, the dragons would grow stronger, their abilities enhanced by the very water they swam in. Satisfied with my work, I returned to the surface and took flight, heading back toward the valley. The dragons would be able to feel the difference soon, and when they did, they would know that the hollow earth, with all its mysteries and power, was becoming more and more their home. Chapter 72, Chapter 73, The Calm Before the Storm. The day was quiet, almost too quiet, when Kong appeared on the horizon. His massive form loomed over the valley, his powerful strides shaking the ground. Dragons, sensing the urgency, took to the skies, and some moved to intercept him. But I raised my hand, signaling them to stop. This was something bigger, something that needed to be addressed directly. Kong didn't waste time. His voice thundered, carrying the weight of something far more dangerous than any of us had faced before. "It's them," Kong said, eyes wild with urgency. "An ancient titan is awakening. It's coming for everything. We have to find Godzilla, now." I felt a coldness settle in my chest. The name was familiar. The threat was real. I didn't need Kong to explain further. He didn't need to tell me who he was talking about. Shimo and Scar King were stirring again, and this time, they were coming for us all. Kong's eyes locked with mine. "We need him. Godzilla's the only one who can help us now." I nodded, my mind already racing. I knew exactly what this was. I'd been preparing for this moment in the back of my mind. The events were unfolding just as they had to. The time to act was now, and if we didn't move quickly, we'd lose everything. Turning to the dragons, I spoke, my voice sharp and clear. Everyone, listen up. Protect the valley, protect the young, and anyone who can't fight. Keep everything secure here. This fight is not ours to finish alone. But if this thing comes here, we stand ready to defend it. They all understood. The dragons dispersed, each taking their assigned position. The gravity of Kong's warning hung over them, heavy in the air. Kong moved closer, and his expression softened just for a moment. We don't have time to waste, he said, already stepping into motion. Let's find Godzilla and get this over with. I didn't hesitate. We couldn't afford to wait any longer. We needed Godzilla's strength, his power. But I also knew that whatever was awakening was unlike anything we'd faced before. I turned to my second in command, the third elder. Stay here with the clan. Protect the valley at all costs. If we don't return, you'll return, the third elder interrupted, his eyes steady. He didn't need to hear the rest. He understood the risks. With Kong by my side, we took to the skies. The wind rushed past as we flew, my mind focused only on what lay ahead. I wasn't sure where Godzilla was, but I had a gut feeling that the time to find him was now. As we flew, I kept my thoughts to myself. There was no need to say it aloud. The name Shimo and Scar King were enough. We both knew what we were walking into. The battle wasn't just for the hollow earth anymore. It was for survival. Kong looked over at me, his massive frame cutting through the air beside me. We find him, we convince him, and we stop it. Together. I didn't respond, but my eyes told him everything. We had no choice now. Whatever ancient titan was rising, we would meet it head-on, with Godzilla at our side. Chapter 73, Chapter 74, Clash at the Pyramids. The scorching sun beat down on the ancient sands of Egypt, where the pyramids of Giza stood tall against the golden desert. You and Kong stood side by side, the silence heavy as dust clouds swirled around your feet. Kong clenched his axe, and you scanned the area with sharp eyes. This was where Kong said Godzilla had gone, and he was right. The ground trembled. A tremor turned into a quake. The Nile surged unnaturally. Then he rose. Godzilla burst from the sand-carved riverbed, massive and terrifying. But his appearance was different. His dorsal fins were glowing pink and red, blazing with power, more intense than anything you'd seen before. The glow shimmered with rage. He didn't wait. With a deep, thunderous roar, Godzilla charged forward. He didn't come to talk, he came to dominate. You realized instantly, he thinks we're here to challenge his throne. Godzilla barreled toward you both. His sheer size and force crashed into Kong first, sending the great ape flying through a dune and into a pyramid, shattering the top half in a cloud of stone and dust. Kong roared and leapt back, slamming his axe into the sand to stop his slide, then charged in retaliation. You inhaled deep, then roared, your flames bursting from your jaws in a scorching inferno aimed straight at Godzilla. But Godzilla responded instantly. His chest rumbled and his pink-red atomic breath surged forward, far more intense than before. The two blasts collided in the sky above the dunes. Your fire was overwhelmed. You dove to the side just in time, the atomic energy carving through the sand like a hot blade through flesh. The impact behind you exploded a massive dune into nothing but glass and molten debris. 1. Godzilla turned his fury toward Kong again, tail whipping him across the battlefield. Kong countered with a crushing overhead axe swing that struck Godzilla's shoulder, sparks and blood flying. You came in from behind, slashing his leg with your claws, then leapt away before the tail could find you. Time seemed to warp around the three of you. You felt the world shift, colors distorted, sound twisted. Kong stumbled forward, blinking in confusion as the sand beneath him began to ripple like water. Godzilla growled, his spikes pulsing brighter as if reacting to the shift in reality. And then it happened. A burst of unnatural energy exploded between the three of you. The desert blinked out of existence. The world warped. The next breath you took was filled with the familiar scent of wild wind and ancient trees. You were back in the hollow earth. Kong landed beside you, groaning and rising to his feet. Godzilla stood across a ridge, equally stunned. All three of you, transported. You growled low, stepping forward. Something had triggered this. Something powerful. But now, you were back in your domain and you didn't like that fate had moved the board again without warning. The war for balance was only beginning. Chapter 74, Chapter 75, The Rising Shadows. The air was heavy with silence in the hollow earth. Godzilla's spikes dimmed slightly, his confusion giving way to wariness. Kong tightened his grip on his axe, the wind howling between the ridges of the valley around you. And you stood still, your wings stretched, your breath low and steady. You could feel it, something was wrong. Then, you saw them. Across the valley, emerging from the thick fog of ancient trees and dusted rock, two colossal figures marched forward with overwhelming presence. The Scar King towered with savage pride, his grotesque form warped by time and hate, bones jagged and armor forged from the remnants of his past battles. And beside him, moving with an unnatural, icy grace, came Shimo, her serpentine body rippling like a glacier sliding through the earth, glowing with cold energy, frost spilling from her maw with every breath. You narrowed your eyes. It's them. The moment you knew would come. The two ancient threats. You didn't need to explain. You didn't need to say their names. You turned to Kong and Godzilla, voice sharp and firm. Godzilla. Kong. Shimo is the bigger threat. She's more dangerous. You two handle her. Kong's eyes snapped to you. You're going alone. You met his gaze. I'll take care of Scar King. Kong hesitated, gripping his axe. You gonna be all right? You smiled grimly. I've waited long enough for this. Godzilla gave a low growl, not in disagreement, but in acknowledgement. Then, the battlefield ignited. Shimo struck first, unleashing a blast of sub-zero energy that tore through the jungle, freezing the landscape in a line of death. Godzilla roared and answered with a full-force pink-red atomic breath, while Kong roared and charged through the trees with his axe drawn. They split off, colliding with Shimo in a storm of fire, frost, and fury. You faced Scar King. The ancient ape snarled, his dark eyes gleaming with malice. He recognized you now, not just a rival, but a real threat. He pounded his chest, the sound echoing like a drumbeat of war. You didn't hesitate. With a roar that cracked the cliffs, you launched forward, slamming into him with the force of a meteor. Scar King met you head-on, fists like boulders slamming into your side as your claws dug into his hide. You both tumbled through trees, rocks, and earth, a blur of destruction ripping through the jungle. He slammed a fist into your snout. You responded by biting down on his arm and dragging him across the ground, before launching a jet of flame into his chest. He screamed and rolled away, seared but far from beaten. He grabbed a stone pillar and hurled at you, incinerated it mid-air, charging through the dust to claw at his face, leaving gashes across his jawline. The two of you clashed again, rage meeting fury, tooth meeting bone, claw against brute strength. Behind you, distant roars and bursts of ice and atomic energy lit up the sky. But your focus was on Scar King. Your battle. Your war. And it had just begun. Chapter 75, Chapter 76, Clash of Kings. The air was thick with tension, every breath laced with the scent of ash and rising heat. Behind you, Godzilla and Kong turned to face the icy menace Shimo, her frigid aura warping the battlefield with frostbite and bone-chilling wind. But your focus was forward, locked onto the monster who had waited for this moment longer than any of you could imagine. The Scar King. He stood tall, muscles taut with primal rage, his amber eyes glowing with malevolence. His body bore the scars of countless wars. His name was not given, it was earned. And now, he stared you down like a rival, like a challenge, like prey. You launched into the air, wings tearing through the wind, and fire churned in your throat. With a thunderous roar, you unleashed it. A massive cone of flame scorched through the sky and barreled toward Scar King like the breath of an angry god. The heat shimmered, the earth below cracked, but Scar King didn't flinch. He raised a single arm. The fire slammed into him with a roaring boom, engulfing his form in fire and smoke. For a moment, he vanished in the inferno. Then he stepped forward unfazed. His charred skin steamed, but his grin only widened. He laughed. A deep, booming sound that shook the bones of the hollow earth. His teeth bared as if taunting you, mocking your power. And with slow, deliberate motion, he reached behind his back and pulled out the weapon every titan feared. The whip of bone and fury. A weapon forged from the remains of fallen titans, twisted and hardened through generations of violence. Its length coiled like a serpent around his wrist, pulsing with a terrifying aura of power. He cracked it once. The air itself screamed. Then he charged. You wheeled in the air as he swung the whip with blinding speed. It tore through the jungle beneath, shredding trees like twigs and leaving a crater where it struck. You dodged left, then up, dancing through the air, flames gathering once more in your chest. You let loose another blast. Scar King twisted his body and rolled forward, the fire exploding behind him in a wave of heat. But he didn't stop. His feet hit the ground and he kept coming. Faster, more vicious. He was learning your rhythm. Watching. Calculating. Then he grabbed a boulder the size of a small mountain hut and hurled it at you. It came too fast to burn, too fast to deflect. You folded your wings and dropped, letting gravity yank you down as the massive rock split the air where you'd been. The wind howled as you righted yourself mid-dive, but Scar King had vanished. Your eyes scanned the battlefield. Then you saw him. Running. His body moved with terrifying force, every step shaking the ground. He tore across the scorched field, muscles coiling as he gathered momentum. And then he leapt. Time slowed. You saw the whip unraveling behind him, its jagged edge sparking with raw, destructive force. His eyes locked onto yours with pure intent. No hesitation. No mercy. This was the Scar King at his most dangerous, not standing, not watching. Attacking. You beat your wings and fired another blast, but it was too late. He was already in the air. Already committed. And the real battle was about to begin. Chapter 76, Chapter 77, The Flame and the Bloodline. The sky cracked. A blast of molten energy tore through the air like a lightning bolt of pure wrath, Godzilla's atomic breath. It collided with Scar King mid-leap, just before his whip could slice the air in front of your face. The impact exploded in a bloom of pink and blue flame, forcing Scar King to twist mid-air and crash violently into the jungle below. Earth cracked under his mass as he tumbled, groaning, kicking up shattered stone and fire-scorched wood. You hovered above, wings beating hard, chest heaving. Your eyes turned toward the source. There he was, Godzilla, standing firm with smoke rising off his spines, their colors flickering between crimson and pink. His chest rumbled with that familiar sound, not a challenge, but a statement. You nodded. Just once. Not a thank you with words, but with warrior's respect. He gave nothing back, only turned, roaring toward Shimo again, the echo tearing across the battlefield like a wave. You didn't have time to rest. Below, Scar King stood again, shaking the dirt from his body, snarling as molten steam rose from where Godzilla's blast had burned him. His glare found you again. He wasn't just angry now, he was humiliated. The firelight reflected in his eyes, and for the first time, you saw it. This wasn't just a fight to dominate, this was vengeance. Pride. The refusal to be bested. With a roar of hatred, Scar King ripped a massive tree from the ground, bark still dripping with sap, roots dangling like veins. He raised it like a javelin, the tip pointed directly at you. Your eyes widened. Not fast enough. Whoosh! You didn't hesitate. You opened your mouth and let out a furious blast of flame, engulfing the tree before he could throw it. The fire spread quickly, turning the weapon to a flaming torch in his grip. Scar King snarled and let it fly anyway, burning, hissing, screaming through the air like a comet. You banked hard to the side, the tree grazing your wing, embers scattering across your scales. He's relentless. I underestimated how fast he can read me. This isn't a titan blinded by rage, this is a strategist. Before you could recenter yourself, Scar King leaped again, faster than before. Too fast. Your instincts screamed at you. You tried to dodge, tried to flare your wings and dive, but you knew it wouldn't be fast enough this time. No, he's too close. Then something powerful slammed into your side, knocking you sideways mid-air. You felt claws grip your scales, large wings wrapping around your form as the world tilted. And then, safety. You turned your head mid-flight to see him. Your eldest son. The first elder. His scales were darker than yours, streaked with bronze and red. His eyes, fierce and burning with the same fire you once saw in your own reflection so long ago. What you? You barked, shocked. You're not supposed to be here. He grinned, breath ragged but determined. I followed you, he shouted over the wind. I knew something would happen, good thing I did. You looked down. Scar King had landed where you would have been. His claws tore through the space like blades. He looked up furious that his kill was stolen. You let out a slow breath as your son steadied both of you mid-air, then flared his wings and brought you back into hover. He came anyway. Even when I told them to stay in the valley. He disobeyed my orders, but saved my life. You looked at him, not with anger, but realization. He's not just my son anymore. He's a warrior. One who's ready. Scar King roared in frustration, pounding the earth with both fists. The jungle shook beneath him. But something in your blood had changed, now burning hotter, stronger. You looked at your son. Let's fight, you growled. And together, you dove back into the fire.